All right, we are live for Saturday's mega slate. Here, 152 games. Is that what I saw? I'm seeing 151 on my book, but regardless, shit ton of games today. Um, I guess we'll start off anything that you guys are kind of looking to attack angle wise now on the books, like revenge spot, games in conference play, the fading teams that can't shoot free throws, threes on the road, etc. For me, I've been really liking the bounce back angles and the revenge here. So like Arizona State today per se, heading to Oregon State off of that crazy buzzer beater win. I'm looking to fade the shit out of Oregon State in a ultimate letdown spot. I think they've been just bad, and now they're getting one of those games where you pull something out of your ass. I think you're gonna regrets back to a pumpkin today. So I'm looking to attack games like that lately here.
Yeah, I'm having the worst week of my entire year. So sitting down 5 units. So I just wanted to recalibrate too and stick to what I've been used to and what we're seeing with home dogs right now, home favorites as well. Not being afraid to take the number, just because we're seeing a lot of parity right now in college basketball. We've seen it more than ever. I saw some stat like 2024. It's like the worst winning percentage for top 25 teams on the road, like since like 1990 something, and then like early 2000s. So like in 2024 is like at the bottom of quadrant 4. So it's a big discrepancy this year. So there's a lot of parity, and got to realize that with the transfer portal, there's going to be games that are closer, and these home teams are winning. Some dogs are winning outright too. So not being afraid to maybe take that.
I actually got a stat just pulled up on my Twitter from that. 1950 to 2023, top 10 win percentage teams on the road was 73%. This year it's 38.6%. They're 17 and 27, and top fives are 11 and 10 on the road straight up this year. So it's been a dogfight for everybody, no matter who you are hitting the road.
Yeah, I would say one of my my best angles this time of year is fade the glossy records for teams who haven't had that in the past. I mean, we every single year there are teams entering the conference play, and at this point in the season, right in the brink of January going into February, where they look fantastic record wise. I mean, this looks like, oh, they could, if they go on a run, they could be a 4 or 5 seed at the end of it, and then feels like 70% of those teams end up falling off a cliff and then kind of ending up on the bubble, but maybe latch on last second. Clemson was one of those teams I ended up fading early, and that record absolutely dissipated. But then you kind of look at, teams just on the mid-major type bubble, or even just like a Memphis, for example, who's 15-4 with that glossy record. And I think we've already seen them just kind of get holes poked in them. Bowling Green out of the MAC is a team that has had an insane resurgence under Todd Simon in year one. And now they're starting to get in the heat of conference play, and they're starting to drop some games. And I think they're going to drop a lot in succession. So beware of those teams with the glossy record, laying points for the first time in conference play in maybe 5-6 years. And I do think there's a lot of value in fading those kinds of teams.
Clemson, 100%. Such paper tigers. Rob, you called that in like December.
Yeah.
Brad Brownell.
Brad Brownell is a fade. His team's collapse.
Yeah, Brad, every year, I think last year they did the same thing. They were hot and everyone was, they were talking the town, and then they shit the bed again. And then it's going exactly how it went last year again. So yeah, Rob, you were on that immediately. Props to you. Sure, you've made some pretty coin just saying, get that out of here.
Yes. He's been one of my money makers by taking the other team for the past 3-4 years.
They're tough to watch when they're not making their shots either. I know that sounds like a classic announcer, like score more points, but like they're terrible to watch. Their defense it's bad to watch. I've had to turn them off multiple times. Maybe because I was on them against Virginia Tech.
And they get kind of stapled to the floor too. And it's not to say that they don't have athletic guys, but like it feels like the ball stagnates, and then they play hero ball for long stretches and can't score. And it's just one of those things when you're rolling and you're making all the shots, everybody's going to be, oh wow, they're moving the ball well, they're shooting efficiently, but the second that falls off a cliff, they put you under the microscope, and a lot of things get exposed.
Yeah, and I feel like they're kind of relying on PJ Hall. I'm looking at these. He's either going for like 13 points, 10 points, or he's going for like 27, 30 points. So it's like they go as he goes. If he's going to have a good night, they're going to be able to get that ball around, and he'll be able to carry him for the most part. But yeah, I mean, when you're fluctuating from 10 points to 31 the next game back to like 13, it's just too inconsistent to actually like make moves in the conference play here. I mean, it is the ACC, but still, I mean, there are a few good teams in the ACC this year. Not many,
Yep.
but a few. Nick, you got anything? Otherwise, we'll hop right into her.
No, I think you guys kind of covered, some stuff that I've been looking out for too. So we can just hop in.
Perfect. All right, well, we'll get her started. The 11 a.m. slate. Anyone have anything for the early 11? I've got. Well, I guess we were talking about it earlier. I'm looking at. I haven't played it, but I'm looking at Louisville. It's plus 8.5 now. I'm seeing against Virginia. I don't know. I mean, I get it's Louisville, but Louisville's been a little bit more competitive as of late. And I mean, yeah, you look at the scores, not really, but I feel like just watching them, like there's games where they show up and then there's games where they don't, obviously. But do I trust Virginia to lay double digits on the road? Not at all. I mean, they're coming off a crazy OT game against NC State. They blew a, I think, 16-point lead, managed to get it to overtime and covered. Otherwise, when they've hit the road, lost by 19 to Wake Forest, 16 to NC State, 22 to Notre Dame, 23 to Memphis. Like, they hit the road and they get their shit kicked in. And I mean, I get it's Louisville, but I don't think Virginia is going to be able to run away by double digits here against Louisville at all. And in the KFC Yum Center, I mean, there's going to be like 100 people there supporting Louisville. So maybe they'll get a little extra juice and keep this within single digits here.
It's
Yeah,
sad to say that the Yum Center's not rocking what Louisville's become. It's sad to say, but I don't want to take Virginia here. I'm not on this game, but I think just watching Virginia blow that massive lead against NC State, they haven't been beating teams out. They're tough to watch too, and they're not the stout defense that we once know and love. I know they held NC State to 20-something points in the first half, and it's an absolute slugfest. But once they become porous, it opens up quick for them.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
and
kind
they're,
of
Oh, I was just saying they're shooting 65.8% free throws too. So going on the road and then you can't make your free throws and you got to cover double digits. You're asking a little too much, in my opinion.
yeah, and what I was about to say is like Louisville's biggest fan is probably the PA announcer in terms of like the just the loudness aspect of that stadium now. But I'm with you guys. This Virginia team, based on, and you're gonna hear me kind of be a broken record with this anyway. Anytime I cap a game, but perception matters, and Virginia is still a blue blood in this conference, but they're just not of that caliber that they have been over the past 4 or 5 years. And we've been starting to see them just kind of deteriorate, especially when the portal became more prevalent. And I think they're gonna start to kind of get woken up by these types of games. So I'm with you, Trevor. I think plus 9.5, if you can find that out there. Those are some lines I would target.
Yeah, I think it's a little tad too high. I think Louisville can definitely hang around and stay within that number for against this Virginia team. Like Rob said, like they're just not the same Virginia anymore. So yeah, I think catching that many points, 3 possessions, a little over 3 possessions. I mean, I don't see why Louisville can't cover.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I just can't. Betting on Virginia is a fucking nightmare. I mean, I've done it a few times this year. Only at home, you fade them on the road because you go to Notre Dame and you lose by 22, not even be competitive in that game. What's to say Louisville doesn't beat your ass by 3 points, 4 points at home? So, I mean, a little nasty spot, nasty game, but don't mind the spot. You guys got anything for this 11 a.m. or noon slate for you guys?
Yeah. So I took a shot last night with betting Duquesne laying 8 points because I kind of been following the status of Day Grant because he's one of those guys who I feel like is, the key to a team success, where sometimes you lose a leading scorer and it can actually be a good thing. And then other times it just, your team looks like they've fallen apart. And Day Grant's the former on that, where he is the key piece into that Duquesne formula to win games. And I last game out, he said that he should be back for this game. Confirmed this morning by John Rothstein. He's going to be playing. And so that's a shot that I took, just kind of reading into the line, seeing them lay 8 against a decent looking Fordham team. And on the other side of Fordham, they're dealing with some injuries as well to Jafat Medor, who is a really good player as well for him. So when you're looking at, one team losing a guard, one team getting the best guard and maybe the entire conference back, and then a Duquesne team that's actually started to find a way to win games without Day Grant, I'm all over Duquesne to potentially pour it on here by 20.
Yeah, I mean, go for it, Mike.
Yeah, I like Duquesne. They're one of the teams that I've bet on just twice or 3 times this year, and they've just let me down every time. But this is the one they can get up for, because Fordham's the same team for me as well. So, yeah, I think with that injury news is big time. So shout out Rothstein getting to that. See 7.5, 8. I think they can get it done by 10 or 12 for sure against Fordham. They need this win too. Big win. Home crowd gets up for these games in Philly as well. So I like it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're Fordham's allowing 40% to 3 points and only shooting 65% free throws, I mean, it's kind of hard to hang in when you're not making your free throws and you're letting 40% from the arc. And Duquesne, yeah, they came off of that 54-50 St. Bonnie's win. One of the uglier games of the year. That was filthy to watch, but we saw what St. Bonnie's did even without their star player yesterday. They bounced back 91-72 over St. Joe's at home. And Fordham coming in, I think Duquesne will probably, yeah, I agree with you guys, get the job done here. I mean, they're desperate, and I mean, they're not shooting great from 3, but they're defending well and forcing turnovers. So yeah, desperate team here and at home. I like that.
This may be a little SpongeBob SquarePants, but I just saw that, Rob, you took it as well. Houston minus 14.5. I just don't see Kansas State getting up for this game. Houston's been slaughtering teams, especially at home. I'm not afraid of the number. I know that they just had that big win against BYU, but I mean, holding UCF to 42, Texas Tech to 54, West Virginia at home to 55. I mean, I know Kansas State's been playing much better ball in conference play, and they've honestly surprised me after seeing them play basketball the first couple weeks of the season. Beating Baylor. But they really only play good at home. I know that they won at West Virginia, but that's nothing to be too proud of this season. And they've won on the road in non-conference games. But I just don't see them getting up for Houston at 12 p.m. game after going to overtime against Iowa State and Ames. You had that 11. I mean, they lost by 11 in overtime in Ames. So, and all that weird stuff with Jerome Tang. So I just don't see them getting up for this game. I know it might be close in the first half, but this is a game that Houston's just going to grind you out like they always do. So it might be square, but I like it in Kelvin Sampson.
Dude, you nailed it, because and I think we're actually getting a lot of perception value here too, because Kansas State has a 14-5 record, surprisingly, where it kind of feels like they are playing like an 11-8, 11-7 type team. But they're still finding ways to win games, which is a credit to Jerome Tang. And this is probably still a team that makes the tourney somehow. But Houston laying 15.5, I think, is just telling you everything here. Houston's just a different caliber team. Kansas State is not on the level that they were last year, and a 14-win team getting 16 points, I think people are just going to be jumping all over that idea. But Houston is just the perfect formula to put the actual beat down on them. And Kansas State, I think, shot their load against Iowa State and Ames. That was the game on this road trip that they could have picked off, and technical fouls down the stretch, missed buckets, and just kind of cost them that game. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I mean, they were in that Iowa State game, and then Tang's getting teed up at the end and screws his team out of that game essentially. And yeah, I was looking at this too. That big spread was eyeballing me, but I was also looking at like a Kansas State team total under. You go from Iowa State, that physical defense that's going to get up in your shit. And coming off that tough loss where you had it late, you were in it, and now you're going to head to Houston, where they're the definition of big physical defense in this conference. So I mean, like, I'm with you. I think it's probably going to be one of the uglier games. I think Houston will probably steamroll them, and Kansas State will struggle to break 50 points in this game. I mean, Tyler Perry does so much for this team, and he's going to be locked down by Jamal Shed and LJ Cryer. So, yeah, I'm with you. I lean Houston in that one. I like the team total under, and Kansas State has been getting lucky. I mean, that Baylor game at home, that was incredibly lucky to go to overtime and get the win there. Oklahoma State, they only won by 4 points at home in the Octagon of Doom, and hit the road. You lost, like Rob said, the one game you could get. So yeah, I think it's probably going to get pretty ugly. They're probably getting ready for Oklahoma right now, kind of accepting their fate for today. All right. Nick, anything for Georgia, Florida? I know you've been a Florida guy.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Georgia and Florida overs whenever they play, so I'm on that since they're playing each other. I do like Florida's offense, especially at home. They look kind of clumsy sometimes, where they just like don't know what they're doing on some of these possessions. But I think they'll be able to definitely put us up into the mid-high 80s at home. And I do like Georgia to also hang around. I think the number's a bit too high for Georgia. I think it's like 8.5. I don't know if it's moved, but I do think Georgia can hang around with Florida. So I think we're going to get two high-powered offenses. Georgia can let it rain from three against this Florida defense, who's not really that great at guarding the three, and Georgia does love to shoot those deep balls. So, yeah, I think we're going to get a contest that's in the 80s for both teams. I think Georgia can cover the spread, but I'm going to ride with the over for this one.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they're baiting you to take Georgia points too, offering you 8.5 in this game. Such a big number. I think it was 7 last night, but I'm not sure. But yeah, you're the Florida guy. I mean, if you're on the over, I guess we're riding the over in this one.
I've been fucking ice cold. I would be careful riding my shit.
Yeah, today's the day.
You're looking at Mr. Freeze himself this week, man. So yeah, it's. I feel like it's like I don't know. This is my first year tweeting out plays, and like I tweeted this, but like I normally regress, and I told you guys before, like I normally regress like that first week of February or sometime around there in conference week, because a lot of random stuff happens, and then we get it back in March, right? So same shit's happening. I'm a broken record. I'm gonna tell you though, Nick, I like it. I don't care that sharps are on unders. They've been wrong with you on those 100%. And I feel like Florida and Kentucky, it's one of those teams where I'm just like blindly taking their overs. Like we talked about, Kentucky being one of those teams, just blindly taking the overs when they're putting up 95 a game. Like it's the Indiana Pacers playing, you know?
I ain't bitching, Tyler. It's going over, brother.
Yeah, actually, all the unders this year have seemed to just not be under spots. They just soar over. I usually enjoy betting unders. Not this year. I've got my teeth kicked in unless I'm taking like a team total under versus Houston or some defensive team.
Unless it's like a CAA team like Towson or something like that. Yeah, like you know, I feel like it's just you got to find the teams that are that slow pace, drag you out, but then the books kind of correct itself at this time of the year and place a number like we saw with Towson Drexel 125. They scored like 130 something. So anyway.
Yep. Conference games too, you get those late game fouls. You got to factor in another 8 points, 7 points off of just stupid fucking fouls. Yeah.
Otherwise, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, listen, I'll just say this about totals just in general right now too, is with teams that have the high powered offenses, it feels like the books are overcorrecting and kind of giving them some cushion where we normally would see a 155 line, it'll come out as 160, or even 152 will be 160, just kind of that differentiating, number where they can buy a couple possessions and still capitalize because teams score in the high 70s or 80s or 90s. And one of those games that really does stick out to me is Oklahoma. And I'm blanking on the other team. Well, let's pull it up.
Texas Tech.
Yep. Oklahoma, Texas Tech at 140.5. you look at the last 5 games for both of these teams, it is soaring over that number. But Oklahoma, physical style of play, drive the lane basketball, and Texas Tech, McCausland. I mean, that's just the style of ball where in conference play, going on the road especially, they're going to try to slow it down. They're going to try to play physical defense. And so you have two teams that are basically going to be butting heads in this matchup. But the recent scores that they put up don't suggest that this is going to be the case. So I think we're getting a number here that's a little bit suspectly low. And I think it's a good reason, because I think this game is scored somewhere around the range of 67 to 66, whereas a lot of people are thinking this is going to be in the 70s.
Just like Texas game with Oklahoma specifically, I feel
Bang.
like.
Yep.
100%. Next
Trevor,
game in this
12:30. Is that the next game? The 12:30 game?
we got one more big
one
one we got to cover in this early slate. Providence, Georgetown.
That's what I meant. Yeah, the
Oh,
12:30 game.
Okay.
11:30.
Oh yeah,
time.
you're an hour ahead. Yeah,
Mr.
yeah, my bad.
Central. Yes. Probably the best time. So,
Me and Rob, Central boys for life.
that's a good
yes,
good
sir.
time for sports, I think. Central time.
It's beautiful. It's perfect timing. I'm on Providence minus 11.5 here. This line is gigantic. I get Georgetown sucks. I feel like they're kind of asking you to bet Georgetown with a big number with Cooley coming back. I mean, obviously this is a big game for him yet. His team fucking sucks. His last game, he was sitting on the bench during a timeout. He didn't give a shit. Like, he's done with this team. He hates this team. It's his first year. They'll make changes in the offseason. They'll get new guys in there. But Providence could lose the rest of the year. They don't give a shit. They want to beat the ever living shit out of Ed Cooley today. And Moneyline Max said it on the College Experience last night. Kim English is going to get style points in this game for running it up and showing the fans that, yeah, fuck Ed Cooley. All right, we're going to beat him by 20 today. So I'm on the 11.5. I think this is just going to be a wax. I think Devin Carter is going to have a big game like he usually does. He'll show up. He's shown he can drop for 30. So, I mean, big national TV game. Everyone's going to be watching this game. I think he shows up. I think Providence shows out. The dunk, are they the dunk or they're the amp now, aren't they? Fuck it.
That's still the dunk.
Yeah, fuck it. It's the dunk forever, just like Miller Park in Milwaukee. They're gonna this place is gonna be rowdy. I mean, I've seen pictures already this morning. Kids are lined up out the door. They're like on the streets and shit. Bars are packed. Like, this is going to be rowdy. Give me Providence 11.5. I think they smoke them today.
Yeah, I hate taking big numbers in conference play, but this is one where I'm not afraid of either. I think with you, Stooley. What makes me want to bet Georgetown blowing that game to Butler? I mean, I know they hung in at the Cintas Center and they kind of played decent against UConn, only losing by 13. But outside of that, I don't have any rhyme or reason to bet Georgetown 68-65. Maybe Ed Cooley gets them up, but this guy, I mean, you got to work with what you got. I know you're a good coach and whatever, but when you don't have a great engine to drive, you're not going to be able. That was a terrible analogy, but anyway, you know what I mean. When you don't have the players to do it. And Providence got to get this win too. I know that they've won 2 in a row. They smashed DePaul. They had a big win against Seton Hall, so maybe a letdown, maybe a look-ahead spot at UConn on Wednesday the 31st. But I don't think so. I think this has been a scheduled game for them the entire season, and yeah, I like that angle.
Listen, one of my favorite one of my favorite angles with these coaching return type games, and we've seen it with like Chris Beard in the past coming back to Texas Tech after he bailed on them. And what always happens in these games is the first half, I feel like, goes to the former coach. Like, this would be like maybe a first half spread bet on Georgetown. But as the game kind of wears on and the better team is the home team without that good coach, and also you have just the atmosphere bearing down on you in the second half, and you have a team that's playing inspired, trying to really get one back on their former HC. I mean, I think the second half is kind of where this game opens up. So I wouldn't even mind an angle of Georgetown spread first half, alternate line it all the way back to the original line if it is a little bit different with Providence in the second half. I think that's kind of the way that this game flows.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I like initially was looking at this number because it was so big, and I was like, man, Georgetown has, they haven't been winning these games like, these last couple games, but minus the Butler game, I mean, they were hanging in. Like they got that win over DePaul, hung in there with Seton Hall and UConn, and then barely lost to Xavier. They lost by 1. So I was like, man, that number's kind of enticing. But I think what Rob said is right. I think maybe Georgetown can come out in the first half and compete. Like they were hanging in there with Butler in that first half, and then Butler just blew the doors off of them in the second half. And I think exactly what Rob said. I think that sixth man in the crowd, and just that vibe and that energy that the crowd is going to bring, and that want to just be your old head coach that left you, is going to really take over in the second half. And I could see Providence just running away with it at the end.
Yeah, and I mean Georgetown hasn't won a road Big East game since Notre Dame
No.
on Saturday the 16th, so they're not showing up on the road either. And yeah, I don't know. I can't get the picture of Cooley sitting on the bench with his hands on his face while the timeout's happening. Like, I don't know. I don't like the vibes here.
He can't
I
do that
see
this
what Rob-
game. He cannot do
No,
that this
no.
game.
I mean,
God,
they're going
no.
to be on his ass though. So
Yeah.
I mean, if Providence is smart, since this game's early, they're doing $1 beers, $2 beers, and getting that place fucking amped by the second half. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement here. Providence is the
Sure.
play here in this one.
Show me the $2 beers, man.
I said they
amazing.
should.
Yeah. Show me those for sure. This is a spot where I kind of like the under 142. I hate taking an under on that number, so might be a live bet spot for me. But this just seems like maybe the Providence gets it done like 70-55, or something like that. Georgetown, they hold
Put the clamps
Georgetown,
down.
put the clamps down, which is something that they can do very well. And their defensive efficiency is very good compared to Georgetown's not really good at anything other than maybe
Word.
their offense is okay. So
Word. Well, that's Slay, unless anyone else has anything for that early one. All right. I will spend 2 seconds on this. Detroit at Green Bay. I was at the Green Bay game on last was that Thursday. They took number 1 on the horizon. All right, don't fuck with the Phoenix. But this is a game where they're not going to be up for this one entirely. I mean, you just knocked off Oakland at home by 10 points. You take sole possession of the Horizon League. You've got measly ass Detroit coming on into your house. I mean, this feels like a game where Detroit hangs around, lose by like 7 or 8. I don't want to say they're live in this game, but this isn't going to be a big energy game for Green Bay. I mean, the Thursday game, they had $3 beers, all right? $3 24-ounce beers. It was fucking amazing. 3,000 some people. That place was rocking. You're not going to have the same turnout here today at the Resch Center. I think it'll probably be, it'll be a nice environment, but it's not going to be anything near what it was. I think Detroit and Jaden Stone are going to be able to do just enough and hang in this game, lose by 7 or 8 points. So I'm on Detroit plus 11.5 this morning for that nasty ass game, which is kind of had me hesitant of betting fucking Louisville too, because who the hell wants Louisville and Detroit on the card?
Yeah, you're betting the grossest teams.
parlay them.
Shout out to Sundance Wicks at Green Bay too for turning that program around, man. I think they had like 10 wins combined the last 2 years, or 8 wins combined the last 2 years, and now they're first on the horizon. I mean, he's really turning them around, and they look good. So, shout out to him.
Yeah, they've been bad. Like KenPom, like 360. They're 202. That might be the highest KenPom ranking they've had in a minute. Last year, 361, 343.
They were auto
257.
fades for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like 5 and 25 normally and stuff like that.
2019, they were 185 in the KenPom. But yeah, this is the best team they've had in 5-6 years. Noah Reynolds is electric. But I mean, again, this is just sleepy spot. It's Detroit. Detroit hasn't won a game. Who cares? Green Bay will win by like 6 or 7.
Bay. Don't fade them.
Hate to do it, but this is the one spot that I feel comfortable doing it. And I've wanted to back Detroit for a minute. And this is the spot. This is the one.
I will say, Trev, and I'll put this in your corner. I mean, last night you faded one of your teams, and disaster struck.
Yeah, that was tough. That was.
They were not in that game at all. Like
I was
never.
sitting at the bar with my buddy. I'm like, all right, we're gonna get a run here. All right, we're only down 10. It's early. Get to within 3. I'm like, all right, now we got a game. Doors kicked in again. Just never closed the rest of the game. I don't think they got it within single digits from there on out after they pulled within 3.
They can win the Big Ten. they could win the Big Ten easily. They're good.
I know, it's crazy. They're better than Purdue. Well, statistically right now. I mean, they haven't played them, but it's pretty wild.
Dude, I
but-
watched Purdue live this week. They were unbelievable. I mean, I know they played Michigan. They suck, but yeah, like Michigan literally can't shoot at all. But dude, Purdue just plays some good basketball. And that Lance Jones, big piece.
He's coming.
addition.
He's coming on. Right
Big addition. That's what they were missing last year, 100%.
Yeah.
So,
now. Jenkins wasn't that guy last year that they hoped.
and their
so
young
Jones
guard
is figuring it
play,
out.
Braden Smith's got improved a ton. Yeah, it's gonna be Wisconsin or Purdue for sure. Obviously.
Michigan sacrificed their basketball program for that natty. Yet they still found a
Shit.
way to beat Ohio State.
Shit, I would have Wisconsin. I don't care, basketball or football.
Oh.
Give me a national title.
My
I'll
buddy
take
said,
it fucking
my
down
buddy,
here.
my buddy's
I
a
would-
big Michigan fan. He said that basketball team could never win another game ever, and he would still take the trade.
I think they shot like literally 20 something percent. It
They were
ended up
ugly.
being 30% at the end of the game, but at one point they were shooting in the second half like 24%. Like, oh my god, that's bad. But we can move on. Yeah, let's go hospital. Up, you're on mute, Trevor. There's one.
Did it again. All right. Yeah, someone else can take over. I've got one more game, but in this window, but someone else if they got something.
Well, I'm trying to get convinced because I see a lot of people on Iowa State. Is it worth the bet at 1 o'clock to take Iowa State against Kansas? I feel like it's one of those public bets that I initially loved, but seeing so many people are on Iowa State, it's like scaring me to do it almost.
I'm one of those public people.
Okay, then I'll do it. I'm with you. It's good. Yeah,
think
like, Kansas hasn't impressed me, dude. I mean, they barely beat Cincinnati when we all were on Kansas, and I saw Book It with Trent was on Kansas. I was like, oh god, but it's one of those.
Nothing worse than open up Twitter and seeing his face on the same bet as you.
Yeah, he's kind of been hot on the straight bets, but yeah, no, he's hilarious. But yeah, it's one of those games. So it's a home team. That place is one of the toughest places to play outside of the Fog and the Big 12. It's just a sleepy spot for Kansas after barely beating Cincinnati, losing to West Virginia. Do they come play desperate? They want a road win because they don't have a road win outside of Oklahoma State. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a dogfight, and I think the line opened up at 2.5, and it like quickly climbed to like 4, and then I snagged it at 3.5. But I think Iowa State's defense is like wildly suffocating. I mean, even on the road, we saw them. BYU couldn't really run up the score like they usually do at home. They held Oklahoma State to 42 points. That Houston offense to 53 points. And I think getting Lipsy back. I know he was out for a couple games with injury. That's a huge piece for them to come back. I think he's averaging like 18 points per game. So having him back on the court is a big help, especially versus Kansas. So I think that defense is really just going to be, up to just be shutting Kansas down, coming into their house. And I think their offense is more than capable enough to cover a 3.5 point spread. So I'm going to ride with the Cyclones. I'll die with them. I really do like their defense. I think they're definitely capable of just shutting Kansas down and getting a couple possession leads. So I'm riding with them.
Okay, that makes me feel good. And I think I'll just stick to the system that, like I just talked about at the intro of the show. Yeah, I'm with you, Nick. And I think another point is telling is that the over-unders total sitting at around 143, 141. So this is going to be a dogfight for sure. But yeah, one of those, I think I'm with you, one of those games that just Iowa State ends up pulling away towards the foul game, just like they did against Kansas State. So I think they were in a look-ahead spot to Kansas. That's why they allowed Kansas State to go to overtime and was a close game, but they ended up getting it done. So yeah, go Cyclones. Rob, sorry. You still
Oh no.
Yeah. Do you like Iowa State or is it like a pure hatred, like rivalry? in Iowa?
It's really not a pure hatred, especially when money's involved, because Iowa State has made me a lot of money betting this team at Ames over the years. But I will say it's just kind of a couple pushbacks. So Taman Lipsy coming back, that's definitely going to be long-term great for Iowa State because he is a big piece. That said, he is a shooting detriment. He's made a lot of improvements this year in terms of his range shooting, mid-range, 3-point shooting. But over the course of his career, he's been one of those guys that just is inexplicably a guard who is like left alone at the top of the key and nobody's guarding him. And when you're coming back after an injury and you're going up against Bill Self, I feel like there's very few coaches who know exactly what to do in that scenario and how to, mitigate a guy like that returning. And Bill Self's one of those guys who can take advantage. So there's one thing. Two, Iowa State laying more than 2 possessions here when Kansas always gets the whistle in this conference. I mean, I feel like this could be a game where Iowa State gets ticky-tacked to death, especially with how physical they can play. And Kansas State could end up shooting 10 plus more free throws, and it wouldn't be surprising to anybody, I think. And even with all that kind of taken into account, Iowa State needs to win this by 2 possessions. It's tough. I think this line is kind of perfect where it probably ends up as a 3-5 Iowa State winner. And because of that reason, I think there's a lot of too many variables at play and too much steam going behind Iowa State right now that I'm just staying off of it. But I would lean slightly to that Iowa State side, I think.
Yeah, you're right with Lipsy, like kind of being a detriment if the ball's in his hands. Like he has been a bit off shooting, especially, coming back in that Kansas State game. He was 2 for 10. So, we'll give him some more time after coming back off that injury. But you're right. I mean, Bill Self is going to know like that's the guy. He's going to be able to shut him down. So he might struggle in this game. But yeah, like you said, I think the line is kind of perfect. It's definitely not one where there's a huge edge, I don't think. But I'll die with him.
Same. To your point, Rob, too, I feel like teams in general, when they get a player back, it takes a game or two to get gelling, right? And it does take a mojo out. And translating practice to a game is nothing similar. So once you have your first game with that player back, you're using a certain percentage amount of possessions. He better be on, or it does take a while. So I think that's a good call out and pushback for sure. Go Cyclones. Driving down, what is it, I-80? I've drove down I-80 before. Whew, yeah, right?
Yep, I-80 is part of it.
Yep.
I will say I did see Iowa State at 5 this morning. It's down to 4.5. It's juiced 4.5, but kind of moving back the other way now. So yeah, maybe 5.5. I don't remember, but it was definitely 5 at least. I don't know.
I wouldn't feel comfortable at 5. That's for sure.
No. I looked at it and I saw 3.5 yesterday. I was like, shit. I was really hoping to at least maybe get 3. But I like Iowa State in this one. Their defense at home and it's Kansas. This place is going to be rocking. So it does kind of feel baity giving you 4.5 points with Kansas, but I also don't feel 100% comfortable laying 3 possessions with Iowa State here. So lean Iowa State, but I'm not going to be playing this one. The other game I have in this noon window, Missouri plus 6.5. I should take it on the money line because I keep talking about it, but South Carolina off of the Kentucky game, just you annihilated Kentucky at home. Now you're getting dog shit Missouri coming in, and you're only 6-point favorites. You should just work them, right? I don't think so. Missouri's they've been dog shit. We all know this, but they've been tight. They've been playing teams tight lately. They had Texas A&M on the ropes. Late, they were leading at one point within like under 4 minutes, and then they just kind of coughed it up. I don't think South Carolina is going to be as up for this game. I mean, like, I gotta find the page. I just lost it, but they just topped Kentucky big time, and now you're gonna have to get up for another game against a desperate Missouri team that has not won in the SEC yet, and they had their shot last game. And Texas A&M is a far better rebounding team, and the fact that Missouri hung in was a detriment. I mean, they weren't shooting, but neither was Texas A&M, so it was just a grind fest. I don't think South Carolina is going to be as up for this game. I think Missouri's legitimately live to get their first win in the SEC today. I am on the 6.5. I don't know if I have the nuts to pull the trigger on a money line play, but I am for sure on the points. I've got that locked in. So I think Mizzou gets it done. I think Vanover has a big game, and just desperation. I mean, they're not going to lose every game, and this is as good a spot as any, catching South Carolina off of the that big home win against Kentucky. So,
and I think you nailed it, Trev. And I'm all over Missouri too. And you mentioned that they had Texas A&M on the ropes last time out. They had South Carolina on the ropes, and they took it all. They blew a 20-point lead in that ball game. So once you have a team that really knows that they can play against another team a second time in the season after a heartbreaking loss, and like you said, chasing their first win in conference play, they're winners of 1 of their last 10. I mean, this is a team that is absolutely bottom of the barrel desperate right now. And this is a team that made like a run last year in the NCAA tournament. So when you're kind of factoring in all those things and just a pride factor, and you're seeing a book setting a line at 6.5 in this type of spot with, again, I mentioned the top of the show, but a glossy record with a team that hasn't been there in the past 5-6 years in South Carolina. This line is screaming that Missouri is going to win this thing outright, and I think they do.
South
All right, I'm
Carolina,
putting in my line.
they never been there. Even the year that they went to the Final Four, they weren't getting that much people because no one thought they'd go to the Final Four when they made the tournament.
Yep.
Even having their tournament team, I like that. I like that angle.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. I think Missouri is the right play on this one.
We were so high on Missouri. You and I, Trevor, specifically, like we were so high on Missouri, like in June, transfer portal, July, August, all summer. We were like, this team might be sneaky good. But
I love the Vanover edition. I mean, you watch what he did with Max Asmus, what they did. He could run the floor and play, and they don't look super good. I mean, Vanover's playing 29% of minutes. Like,
what were they last year?
9 minutes, 12 minutes, 9
Were they a
minutes,
7
14.
seed or 10 seed? They lost to Princeton.
Duke. They lost to Duke last year, 74-51.
I thought they lost to
Princeton. No. Well, last 2022 and 2023 ended against Duke in the tournament.
Wow.
Damn.
That's right.
Poor
That's
bastards.
Right.
But yeah, Missouri. So Robbie twisted my arm. We're rolling money line. Let's do this.
Let's do it,
Go
man.
fucking Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
All right. We got a lot of comments. Jeremiah Chatchery. Thanks, dude. The team total unders, they come and go. I mean, some games, like Siena last night, that under with all those injury announcements, that was like 38 points a game and 14 rebounds. That was not in the lineup last night, and you could tell because they had like 12 points with like 5 minutes left in the first half. That was kind of easy, but then there's some games where it's just like nobody can miss. Like that Houston Baylor or BYU game, I thought was going to be more of a defensive battle because Houston didn't want to get into a shootout against BYU, but I mean, both teams were making. I think there was like 40-37 in the first half. I knew it was cooked, so it's just all about spots and whatnot, and that was clearly not it. Lock Taco Kane in the house. Appreciate you, dude. Great stuff over on. I love that Lock Talk app. Is fucking fun. Just talking shit and battling people on there, and they do great work. Dilly's in the house. Let's go. Horizon League. Low-key Horizon League's been fucking awesome this year. It's been awesome. So maybe I'm a little biased because of Green Bay, but
Horizon
Horizon
overs. Take those blind overs, man. I mean, how many games are ending like 90 to 80, 88 to 80 something? I mean, it's impressive.
That Wright State game just had fucking 206 points in it the other day.
Yes, I know. And they just
Wright State says fuck defense.
Cleveland State too was like 190 or something like that, or is that the 206 one just this week?
Yeah, I think they played each other.
I think they played last game, yeah, but still, yeah, Horizon's fun. It's gonna be a fun conference tournament this year. That's for damn sure.
Yep.
Next, anyone got anything else in this window? That was it for me. I know there's a big one in Seton Hall, but
I know we kind of talked about Tech Oklahoma on the total side of it. Do you guys have any opinion on the spread side of it? It's OU laying the 3.5 at home. I was kind of eyeballing
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What's the 140? I don't have a play in this one. Honestly, I do kind of like the under though. I mean, Oklahoma's physical. Texas Tech is physical. I feel like Texas Tech has kind of proved me wrong this year by scoring points though. I could just be wrong. I mean, yeah, 78 against BYU. They only put up, well, that was in Houston, 54, but 60, 90. Like they've been scoring points. Like I feel like a Texas Tech team is normally grinds you out slower pace, but Mark Adams ain't there this year, and Grant McCaslin, he's known for his defense, what they did in North Texas, but shocker, you come up to a P5 school with much better athletes, now you can actually score the ball too. So they're doing pretty well. I like this game. I kind of like it to go under. I feel like it's going to be more of a defensive battle than just up and down the court with both teams here. If we look at conference play, I mean, Oklahoma's offense, not too great. They're shooting 76% free throws, which is first in the country. That seems, or conference. I mean, 76 seems kind of low to be first, but here they are, and they're defending. But I don't know. I like the under in this one. Feels like a grind you out game. Texas Tech doesn't turn it over. Oklahoma tries to force turnovers. So if Oklahoma or Texas Tech shots are falling from 3-point land, it could be a long day. But I think it's going to be mid 60s kind of game. I think it'll be just a grind you out fest.
It's an under. I'd definitely back with you, and we've seen it with Oklahoma, even in their their highest scoring games in the conference, 77 against West Virginia, 71 against Iowa State, games that they won, I should say. But just having their home loss, these are one of the teams that like Oklahoma can't play on the road. They can only play in Norman. I think just coming off the loss at home and given it's a Red River rivalry, they look at Texas Tech like their little brother, I guess, like that, compared to like Texas, of course, their big spot. So maybe it's a sleepy spot, but they got 2 road games coming up, and then BYU at home. They need to get this done and prove what we all know is best. They can play only at home, terrible on the road. So, because they're going to drop one of those games against Kansas State or UCF.
Yeah, and
So
I will
I'll back
say just
Oklahoma
kind
and
of
under with you.
yeah, and what I will say too, in terms of just kind of how this game lines up style wise versus what they've already seen. I mean, you look at the Texas Tech game versus Kansas State. I think this is a very similar matchup going up against Oklahoma, just from a stylistic perspective. That game was 60-59, and then on Oklahoma's side, the team that kind of emulates a little bit what Texas Tech does in Cincinnati, and that game was played at 69-65. I think this is a game that both teams could end up scoring under 70 points, where this line is kind of needing somebody to break that barrier. So I'm all over the under. I think this is probably going to be something I end up actually throwing some money on, even though I have far too much already out there. But yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think the under is a good play here.
Rob, you called it best. Yeah, it's one of those days you just have to like dump so much, and you're like just waking up in the morning like, oh my god, like you
bet all the games
Anxiety's
and grab
high.
a stiff drink.
Right.
I will say out of the last 10 games between Texas Tech and Oklahoma, the over-under is 0-9-1 to the under. Last game it did push at 137. Otherwise, yeah, it's gone under anywhere from 138 to 124. It's gone under. So these two teams know each other well. New coach, so who knows what'll happen? But yeah, I think under's the play. But it is noted this is the highest total in 10 years. 10 games. Yeah, no. My bad. They since February 9th, 19. This is at least I don't know what it was before, but this is the highest total it's been since then. So
still in college then. Wow, I'm old. Shit. Yeah. I'm gonna back. Let's just take the under. Public's on the over. It looks like too, because they see that low number in the 130s.
2 ranked teams too. Yeah.
Yep.
Texas BYU. We got Texas going to Mormon country. BYU's laying 7 right here. Over under's 151. I'm actually interested in the first half with BYU. I mean, Texas heading to Provo. This place is going to be loud. It's going to be jumping. BYU off of the loss. I think they're going to come out firing and get that crowd involved right away. I'd see it's 4 points. I don't hate that. I was just looking at Texas on the road here. They've been all right. They just smacked Oklahoma though by 15 on the road, and they had another road game. Or sorry, this is their second road game. The game before was that Baylor game where they just fucking coast to coast for a layup and screw the -2.5 for me. But yeah, I mean, regardless, you go and you beat your rival on the road by 15. Now you're going to hit the road to Provo. team you've never. I don't think they've ever played, let alone in Provo. So I think this place is jumping, and BYU's got the length and the length to kind of fuck with Texas's jump shooting. Texas loves to take jumpers, take 3 points, and I think BYU is going to have the advantage defensively there, kind of make it a little stifling for them, and BYU comes out firing. I like the first half here. I feel like Texas can probably backdoor this, but I think BYU gets up immediately, gets the crowd going, and then second half it kind of becomes more interesting of a game.
They played one game in the history of matchups in November 25th, 2013. Merry Thanksgiving. BYU won 86-82. I need to see that. That was in a neutral site though, Kansas City, Missouri. Some non-con action. I love it. I'm not this is a team that I've been backing at home. I did not back them against Houston just because I love Houston so much always, and even though they got Kelvin Sampson, but I respect Kelvin Sampson still as an IU fan. I don't care. I would much rather have him than Mike Woodson. He's a great coach. He gets these guys going. Transfer portal's always rocking with Houston, so I just hate betting against Houston. But this is one of those systems for BYU that I'm going to take. 2 losses in a row too. They need to get up here and win by 10. I think Texas is going to have a letdown. They're off a lot of highs with that Baylor buzzer beater, and then they had the Red River rivalry after basically all of national media calling them frauds, losing to West Virginia and UCF. So I think they answered their call, winning against Baylor and going in Oklahoma and winning. But this is one they just don't get up for. So if BYU lets me down, I'm done betting on them. Like, I'm done.
Yeah, I will say Texas is a team that every single time I've bet them in the past 2 years, it feels like it's always a blood pressure game where it whatever the line's at, it feels perfect with Texas because that's just a blue blood that everybody wants to back, and even just the Texas fan base as a whole is big enough to kind of move lines, and they want to back their boys the same way. You know, if you're an Iowa fan or a Florida State fan or whatever else, you're going to want to back your boys every single game they play in any sport. Well, Texas gets a lot of notoriety just from that alone. And so the lines kind of have to be perfect or else teams or books are going to be really liable for a Texas cover every single weekend. And man, 7 points feels like it's on the dot because Texas could win this game. They could lose by 10, and there's going to be a lot of variance with how they play. So that's kind of my take on that game there.
Yeah, this one when I saw it, I honestly had no idea what to do. I just stayed far away from it because it's such a big spread. And I trust BYU at Provo, but and they're going to be desperate for a win here. But I don't know, that spread just seems very large for me to be laying with them. So I'm just going to stay far away.
Exactly why I like the first half. It just feels like second half somehow Texas is going to find a way and just make a run and get back in it. But I think BYU jumps on them. Just Texas got to get used to the Mormons. I mean, they're going to be loud, sugar high, the whole 9 yards.
Nick, is this a spot for BYU team total maybe or no? We know.
I was literally just looking at it. I don't know. It's 78.5, which I think they can obviously they're always capable of clearing that type of number. But Texas likes to slow you down on the defensive end. So it really just depends on if those 3 balls are going to be falling in their rims or not. So, I mean, can they cover it? Of course. But it just depends on really how the pace of the game is going to go. I mean, Texas is
76. I think 76 is the right number. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about 78, man. Shit.
I think Texas three defense isn't stout or anything like that. I just think it's the pace that I'm kind of worried about. If Texas makes them take time off the clock on all these possessions, we just might run out of time. But it's definitely not like a spot that I would hate.
Might be a live bet spot for me on the team total. See if they start out slow, but I don't know. The 150 is interesting. Maybe they do score 80, but that would be too sweaty. I don't think it's anything to take pre-flop.
You also have to factor in that Rodney Terry is going to be very upset and yelling at students for horns downing him the whole game. So those classes, POSs, are going to be getting it from Rodney Terry.
You're jumping up and down. You're jumping up and down like you just won the Super Bowl or whatever, or the championship, like he said. Man was just giddy as can be when I can't remember who hit the layup, but because I was at the bar, but I was on Texas -1, so that was a big
Nice.
hit.
Yeah, shout out Offshore for fucking me and not dropping lines until they're point and a half moved from open. Bastards. They know what they're doing. They're not dumb.
No 100%.
Big game in this window. North Carolina, Florida State. Anyone got anything in that? I kind of lean Florida State. I was looking at this one. 3 of the last 10 have been outside of single-digit victories. So, I mean, 2022 UNC won by 20. 19 UNC won by 16, and then 2017 they won by 13. Otherwise, they've all been about 8, 4 or 5 point games here, and UNC's coming in. They went to the road. BC gave them hell, a 10-point win there. NC State, they only won by 7. Clemson was a 10-point win. So I mean, they're kind of getting teams playing them tight on the road. Obviously, you get a big school coming in like UNC, everyone's going to get up for it. But UNC's 8-2 against the spread in the last 10. They're 9-1 straight up. Florida State has covered 6 of the last 7 overall, including 3 on the road. At home, they lost to Clemson, so they got a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth. I think they're going to get up for this game, obviously, like they normally do. I think Leonard Hamilton will have them ready to go. I think 6 points is just kind of telling you what's going to happen. That this is going to be a tight game, and especially with North Carolina, they haven't really shown that they can dominate teams on the road this year in conference play. I mean, 13-point win against Pitt, but eat shit Pitt. But Clemson 10 points, NC State 7, BC was only a 10-point win. So I think North Carolina is going to get a game here. I think maybe they could come out in the first half and have a lead, but Florida State's going to hang around in this game. They're going to find a way to get back in it, and I think they are going to cover the 6. But I am on the fence about it because I know it was 7 last night. I believe this is even open at 8. I could be wrong on that.
This is one where I just don't want to fade North Carolina more so than bet Florida State. I think North Carolina is playing just unrealistic ball, just lights out. RJ Davis, National Player of the Year contention easily. Like, I mean, he's playing really good, and watching this team is they're just blowing teams out left and right. And maybe teams keep it close, like we saw with Wake Forest. That's a home game. I mean, Boston College winning at 10 by 10, NC State 13, and they just kind of dominated Clemson. I was on Clemson that game on the road. So Florida State's got to get up here. They got to get up strong. The environment's not going to be too crazy, is from my recollection of fan bases. Maybe I'm wrong, but kind of like Clemson. I've watched Clemson. I'm like, this fan base stinks. They stick to football. Sorry, Clemson fans, but yeah, I just don't want to bet against North Carolina more so than anything else.
Let me lay out the exact flow of this game, because we've seen this 100 times with this type of spread. Florida State is going to lead for 37 minutes of game time, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, there's no way they don't cover 7 points. I mean, this has been trading buckets the entire way through, and even Florida State had an 8-point lead at one point. Well, then all of a sudden North Carolina hits 2 threes in a row when it's a 1-point game. And then all of a sudden they start to get fouled. Florida State chucks up some bullshit threes early in the shot clock. And all of a sudden now we're staring at a 11-point UNC winner. And everybody who bet Florida State and felt great throughout the entire game is like, this is why you don't bet Florida State. I hate this team. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. I've seen this story too many times to back them here.
I think, like how you said Kansas too with the tic-tac calls, I think North Carolina is going to get those late too, like you said, and it'd be tic-tac towards Florida State for sure. And the refs are going to test Florida State. I'm looking up to see which, and it's ACC refs. To my opinion, they're the most scary.
Yeah, I fear that UNC might be a fucking wagon, which pisses me off. They're actually really fucking good. I even had to bet them the other game against BC, because there was just no way they weren't covering that. Or I don't know. They're just kind of rolling right now. But I think Rob's right. I think FSU is going to be in the mix, and then all of a sudden, final 4 minutes or so, like you said, UNC is just going to hit those clutch shots like they have been, and then all of a sudden you blink and they're just fucking running away with it. So I wouldn't bet against them. I don't want to get in their way, regardless of who they're playing right now. So I took the over. So I'm hoping for some points.
Yeah, Rob, yeah, that's right when you said that, I'm like, this is 100% what's going to happen. They'll be up 2 with like 5 minutes left. All of a sudden, RJ Davis will bang like back-to-back threes. All of a sudden, holy shit! All right, 4-point game. Just get a bucket and trade with them, and then UNC wins by like 9 or 10. Like that, yeah, that's definitely going to happen. First half, Florida State will probably get up, but yeah, that was a scary
Sh-
thought you just put in there.
Shout out
And my
Team
math
Cat.
is
Shout out Team Cat Whisperer though about the Clemson man. Florida State's the same way. I don't think their fan base gets up as much. So they need to get up here and be strong against North Carolina, man. I mean, the place needs to be jumping. So I trust Leonard Hamilton though, or I do. But yeah,
I think
Rob's got it on the head, and I think your over is a sharp play too, Nick, because that's another team that not afraid to take an over on North Carolina.
I think Leonard Hamilton at the beginning of the year, like people were, question marking all over him because he just like started out really bad. And I think they were wondering, maybe, as he lost a touch, with this team and just coaching in general. But then all of a sudden they turned the ship around and then won, like 7 out of 8 games or so in the last couple of weeks. And it
8 of
looks
the
like
last 10.
yeah, I mean they're definitely a good team, and you don't really you're not going to take them lightly by any means. So it's good to see them kind of turn the ship around this season so far. So I think they'll definitely potentially have a shot at getting into the tournament depending on how they play out the rest of the season. But yeah, Leonard Hamilton definitely got these guys to turn it around after those first couple weeks of the season.
You just get smacked by Lipscomb and your coach just, I mean, 78-75 was the final score, but they were getting smacked on by Lipscomb. And I've talked about that. Just the coach just bringing them, be like, guys, we just lost to Lipscomb. Time to get our shit together. And they've answered. Yeah, you're exactly right, Nick.
Yeah, of course, like some of those losses in the beginning were to like Florida, Georgia, and UNC, SMU, like teams that are all within like the top 40 or so of in Ken Palm, which they're not bad losses, but you definitely don't want to start your season off being 4 and like 7 how they were or something. So they've definitely looked a lot better in the last couple weeks.
Yeah. I would lean BYU 7.5, but I like the first half more personally. Cut back. I think BYU comes out and jumps on them, and then Texas makes it a game in the second half here. Just my thought. Any other games in this 1 o'clock window that anyone's West Virginia, Oklahoma State? If anyone's got anything in that.
Heck no.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing. I would lean West Virginia, or actually, forget that. Raekwon Battle points. That his points, either he doesn't do anything or he goes off for like 24 25 points. So if you have to play anything in that game, I like Raekwon points. Maybe even a prize pick slipper or underdog fantasy if you got that.
Yeah, like I want to take Oklahoma State because the home team, but just can't bet them. It's so bad, dude. I've watched them
They're
play.
ugly.
I'm
They
like,
were
this
up
is
19
awful.
points and they didn't cover the game last time. And they were getting
I know.
4.5 points.
They're bad, dude.
What the hell, dude? And that arena was empty. Like they don't give a shit about that team anymore. I think Boyd's probably gone here pretty soon.
This team lost to a not February, January Notre Dame team. They lost to a November Notre Dame team. Do you remember how bad Notre Dame was at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. Until Shrewsbury threatened to sign everyone's transfer papers and get them out of there. They were playing pretty fucking bad.
Shout out Shrewsbury, great coach.
Yeah, he's turning it around a little bit. Cutbag, I'm on Detroit. I was at the Green Bay game. The place was rocking. Beers were flowing for $3. That place was loud. 11 o'clock on a Saturday. I'm not really too sure, especially after probably a long Friday night. I'm not sure how electric that arena is going to be. I think Detroit and Jaden Stone keep it within 6, 7, 8 points. I think Green Bay is going to win. I think, but I don't like the spot for them after knocking off Oakland at home, getting revenge on them, taking first place away from them, and now they probably went out and partied a little bit. Now you just got Detroit. So give me Detroit with the 11, 11.5 I'm on. I think it's 11 now, but I like it. I wouldn't play anything under 10 personally, but it's also Detroit. So, if they get blown up by 25, who's going to be shocked here? I just think it's a good spot. Anything in this one? We got Indiana, Illinois. Tough. I'm gonna go grab some coffee beer.
I faded IU against Wisconsin, and I told the TCE guys to fade IU against Wisconsin. And I mean, it depended on the number that you got. So one of those games, but this is a game where they were down by 20 with like 4 to go. And they barely showed up for it. There's a lot of problems with IU. You watch them play, they just lack passion. Clell Ware is hurt, but I think there's some other issues going on inside that locker room where they just don't get up to play. I really loved seeing. I didn't love as a fan of IU, but betting against IU and betting for IU been pretty spot on this year with them. And I love that they just lost that tough game against Northwestern because they're going to come out just ready to play and not afraid to cover that number. Do I think the 14 is high that Indiana can end up backdooring? Absolutely. So this might be a stay away spot for me, but I'd have to still lean Illinois to maybe win by win by 20. And if that's the case, then IU's big fall from grace from last year, and their fans are not going to be happy, and as they are not right now. I mean, they're sitting at 4-4 in the Big Ten. How many other teams are at 4-4 in the Big Ten? And it's just one of those times you just don't win on the road. But IU getting smacked around by Purdue at home. They got 2 home games coming up. They know they can win that game, but I do think this is a sleepier rivalry. Illinois definitely acts like a rivalry more than IU does. But this game was close last year. 2 different teams, or different team for IU more so than Illinois. As Illinois didn't lose too many people. Then they gained a few good in the transfer portal. And Terrence Shannon being back, he's in the home environment. If Clell Ware doesn't play, I might have to just fade my Hoosiers and take the Illini. And if the Hoosiers cover and they play good, and I'm happy. One of those just spots where I just bet against my team, throw a little half unit on, nothing crazy.
You're sick betting against your team, man. It's fucked up.
Dude, it's fucked up. I know, but I mean, again, Ball State betting against them, it's been tough too. But they haven't been playing good in the MAC. So, yeah, I just it's one of those teams, man. IU, you don't score points, you don't win basketball games, and they struggle at scoring points. And watching them try to shoot the 3 is really embarrassing sometimes. And I really don't like the addition that Xavier Johnson's done in the for this team. And he's really, I don't want to find a better word than what I was going to say, but it's better. He really brings the team down and has this. It's like this big just mass. I think mass is a better word than what I was going to say. So we'll see if this team can find a way to get up and show some life. But when they're not in Assembly Hall, they struggle. So
Yeah, fuck IU.
I like Bucky Badgers. I'm not going to say anything against them. So screw you. I like Iowa too, but Fran pisses me off sometimes. Or Iowa.
Yeah, I can't.
We need a
Can't with
Frank
him right now.
10 episode soon. Like he's due for a good explosion.
Dude, I don't get mad. I don't get like mad and tilted at betting because it's just how it is. But like, I wanted to throw something at my TV at that Iowa game against Maryland. I just needed them to win. Oh God.
That was brutal.
6 minutes, no field goals. You can't even make a layup, man.
I wish
It'd be
I
brutal to watch
Yeah.
I'm over Iowa. This team sucks.
next year.
Same with IU.
Yeah. What did they do to us the other day? They didn't score a field goal for what? How long?
6
6.
minutes.
That's
And they kept playing that like Maryland inside game where like I wanted Iowa just to do what they normally do, run and gun, work the perimeter more, but they were kind of just. I felt like they were going inside too much and they were getting bodied low key. That's where they're getting their fouls though.
I saw David tweet about it, so I had to DM him.
Yeah,
2
Chad,
buzzer
you
beaters
took
this
the word
week
out of
for
my
me.
mouth.
It's terrible. I hate being on the other side of buzzer beaters. I'd rather just lose by 20.
Yeah.
Almost. Just be like, I'm an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would much rather lose by 30 than get buzzer beatered for sure.
I don't care that I had the read right. Like, I'd rather fucking win, I don't want to. I'd rather just be like, this is a terrible read. This is over in the first half.
Shout out to Cutback Mac, who says Iowa misses Joe Wieskamp, which is just the weirdest player to name because in that span they had Luka Garza, Keegan Murray, Chris Murray. But I agree, Joe Wieskamp was a great player, and Iowa does miss him. You're right.
Mac is
Everyone
good. Mac is good for the the off the radar guys, like surrounded by stars, and then he just says that he's good for that. He knows his
Hey,
players.
Joe Wieskamp hit some buzzer beaters at Rutgers. I remember that one off the glass. He was kind of the glue guy along with Nicholas Bear. You're right, Cutback Matt. Good analysis.
And everyone can
Joe
picture
Wieskamp got
Wieskamp
NBA
now.
minutes this year. He played for the Raptors a few games.
He's in the NBA.
He had
Yep.
NBA minutes this year. Yep.
Good athlete.
He's in the G League.
Is
Now.
Garza in the NBA or is he in the G League now?
He's been
two-way
bouncing
for a
back and
while.
forth. Yeah. Yeah.
Just go to Europe already.
Right. Is he still with? Is he? Who was he on the 2A with? Was it Detroit? or no?
Pistons. I think it was a Pistons.
T-Wolves.
Oh my God, the
Okay.
Pistons.
I think it started with the Pistons, right?
The
Yeah,
Pistons
drafted
are
by the
college
Pistons
all-stars.
Now
first
he's on
round.
the Timberwolves. Yep, playing back in Iowa. Iowa Wolves.
Yep. He drops like 40 a night. It's crazy.
If-
That rocks.
What if
He's
Bill
the
Self
man.
was at in Detroit and he got his like college all-star squad, which is essentially what Detroit is?
Dude.
That'd be dope.
What, why not run some sets? Use 20 seconds of the clock. Make sure you find a good shot, passes, layups, no dunks. The whole shebang. They could get it done. This is a game I did have bet, but I took off. Villanova Butler. Anyone have anything in that? My only cap is if Villanova fucking sucks, they burnt me a ton, which is probably why I should back them since I like Butler. But Butler's also garbage and burnt us. at
Butler's
the end of
burnt
games.
me
How many
so
times?
much. God,
It's a stay away game, but I'm so intrigued by it.
This is a game everyone's gonna be betting Butler, and maybe the public wins. 1.5 is kind of telling at Hinkle. Villanova's gonna be in this game. I think it's a bet with Hinkle, but yeah, it's tough for me to take Butler personally, man. How many times have they screwed us over? This is one of
At
the
least
teams I've
5.
lost a lot of money on. So
They came through versus Georgetown.
I didn't
'cause I
have
was-
them.
because I wasn't
That's
on
the same
them.
as
I didn't
Villanova.
take them. Yeah,
They were
The
fucking
seat-
pissing me off in the first half.
yeah. And then they just tease you when they come back, and I should just not bet Butler because they'll get the job done today.
I will say, every single Saturday there are multiple games where if you're like, I'm going to bet on red or black on a roulette wheel, and that's what I do. This is absolutely the roulette wheel game where it's pick a side and just think of it as a color, and you have a 50-50 chance basically of hitting it. I Butler and Hinkle, but they kind of have a paper tiger resume where a lot of their wins in conference play have been against the trash of the Big East, and then Villanova is desperate at this point. So you got a lot of factors working against each other in this game.
Yeah, this is one of the grosser games of the day. I'm sure it'll be, all right to watch, but God, you're putting your money on either Villanova or Butler. Like 2 of the most coin-stealing teams in the fucking country. So, no thank you. Behind Northwestern State, but yeah, no thank you in this one. But I'm intrigued. Anyone got anything for this slate? I know we got Auburn, Mississippi State in this one. Clemson, Dukes at 3.
One of my biggest bets of the day is Mississippi State plus 2.5. I think they, again, I just kind of said paper tiger resume. Well, let's go to another paper tiger in Auburn. I think is just their record is going to be regressing back to where it needs to be, just based on the level of play. And this is a good team. They're not a top 10 team. They are more like in that 14 to 17 range. And right now they're just kind of capitalizing on beating up on some of the trash. I mean, Ole Miss, that was a big win that I think they're getting too much credit for because, again, Ole Miss, glossy record team that hasn't been there, and now they're going to have to start playing as the hunted. Well, they laid it on them. Then they beat Vandy. Then they beat an LSU team that was still kind of figuring it out. And they beat Arkansas. I mean, go down their resume and find me a good win. The best team that they played is Baylor, and they lost. And then the second best team might be Alabama. They lost. And now they're going into Mississippi State with an underrated Mississippi State team. I think Mississippi State can pour it on here, and I don't think this is going to be one that's ever in doubt.
Rob, you should be a motivational speaker. I'll take Mississippi State with you. I'm serious.
Let's do it, man.
All right, I'm tailing. I love it. Home team too. Come on. Yes.
Yep.
Their 2 road
100%.
wins are against a dog shit Arkansas team too, and then Vanderbilt by 15. So I mean, it's not big resumes here. And yeah, like like you said, Rob, this place is going to get rocking too. I mean, no quad one wins
Oh,
for Auburn either. Well, that's a little fun stat I've seen floating around. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to play a physical defense like Mississippi State at home in Starksville, where they're desperate to win. They beat Vanderbilt, otherwise they haven't won since Tennessee earlier this month. So this will be a big get up spot. This is their last home game of the month, also. So
mhm.
you know they
I
got
love
to get something.
Rothstein. You seen that video of Rothstein? He's like, if you're looking at a 7 or 8 or 9 seed in the NCAA tournament that's going to make a run, this is that Mississippi State team. He's like, he talks in that cadence. I love Rothstein. Gosh, but yeah, he loves
Quite
Mississippi
the
State.
character.
Make their run. Yeah, quite the character. He definitely is my personality type with CBB.
All right,
I
Mr.
will
Dookie.
say Chad G is saying Mississippi State lost to Southern at home. That was beginning in the part of the season. Now look down that home resume and you will find a Tennessee win where they won from the absolute jump of that game. They'd only trail for about 10 seconds.
They didn't have
Um,
Tolu Smith either, right? Back at the beginning
Yeah.
of the season, I think he was
They got
gone
him
that
back
game
probably a
against
month ago or
Southern.
so.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't played anybody at home, but they've beaten them other than that one loss. I mean, Tennessee was a big one, and they won by 2 possessions, 3 possessions, and 5 points. So, other than their nasty ass 59.5% free throw shooting, everything looks pretty damn good with this team starting to round into form. But yeah, I mean, Florida, Kentucky, and Alabama were the last 4, and then they beat Vanderbilt by 13. So I mean, they've had a tough go of it here. And yeah, like you said, Rob, paper tiger resume here for Auburn. No quad one wins. You're going into a hostile Starkville where they're desperate to get some W's here. So yeah, I think Auburn probably skids twice here and comes back home. Who do they play at home next? Vanderbilt. Okay, yep. So that'll be the get right game before they hit the road again. Mr. Dookie, Clemson at Duke. What do we got, Nick?
Fucking nothing. I honestly like dead ass don't even look into any of their games because I know I'm not ever going to bet them. Because I just can't take it if I bet them and they lose. But I mean, I don't know. I think 8.5 is a lot of points, even though they're going to be home with the Crazies versus Clemson team. Obviously we got the win over Louisville last game, but then we dropped that game at home to fucking Pitt, which was embarrassing after we went to Pitt and beat them by like 25 points. I know we were missing a lot of guys that game. I think Roach was out and we were missing 2 other. I think Mitchell was out too. And then one of our bench players was out. So obviously missing a lot of pieces. So, gave Pitt, enough wiggle room to get that dub. But yeah, I don't know. I think I definitely wouldn't be laying 8.5. But I don't know. You guys might have more insight than I do. I just watched them as a fan.
I really got nothing. I think this is Duke's first game since they lost first home game since that Pitt loss.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Clemson 2-4 in their last 6. Lost at home to North Carolina. Lost at home to Georgia Tech in double overtime. And now you're hitting the road where you lost by 15 at Virginia Tech. You just beat Florida State by 9. Yeah, I think Duke is probably pissed off. I think maybe a first half where they're just like, we're not gonna play this trail game after we just lost a home game already. So I think they come out firing. But Duke is one of the worst teams in the country. 12.7% of offensive possessions are blocked, and Clemson 13.2% of defensive possessions, which is top 30 in the country. They're getting blocked. So, I mean, if Duke's kind of getting lazy with it, and Clemson is walling up and going after it, they could affect the game there a little bit. But I think Duke at home, awful loss to fucking horrible Pitt. Sorry, who was it? Dilly. Sorry, Dilly, but eat shit, Pitt in that one. I think Duke gets this done. But yeah, 8.5 seems like a lot of points, especially like what you said, Rob. Blue blood teams, they inflated a little bit because they know people are going to be betting it anyway. So,
yep.
The move probably feels like Duke first half, Clemson backdoors it, but I want no part of this game. It'll be fun to watch, but no part.
I have to tell you guys a story. I had an espresso martini and I just put like a 12 leg parlay together, and the last leg was Duke money line against Pitt last week, and it would have paid out $3,000 on like a $20 bet. I know that's eating a lot of juice with Duke, but I was like, there's no way they lose to Pitt at home. And I was just one of those like cross sport parlays. I'm just watching like that. I mean, you could have just seen the life off my face. So I'm staying away just because of the painful memory of last Saturday. But I kind of like a rest disadvantage sometimes too for teams. I don't like a team that hasn't played in a week versus a team that got off in a week game. And I know they're on a road spot, but coming back home, I don't like the double road spots off a disadvantage. But a week off sometimes is not in your favor, I don't think either, unless Clemson's just been preparing for this like none other. But like I said, we don't trust Clemson as much.
Yep.
Yep.
None trust there. Rob, anybody got anything in this 4 o'clock for you guys, 3 o'clock slate for us?
The Bulldogs team.
I was just about to say it. Yeah.
Stanford?
Yes.
Ride with my mid-major wagons, bro. They fucked me the other day, but they won't do it today.
They won't. Just off a loss. East Tennessee State, I know that they're a decent team. They get up for games and they play like UNCG and other SoCon teams good. But yeah, I'm with you. They lost to Western Carolina by 14. Come on, Samford's got to cover, right? These guys are our dogs. Nick, your dog too.
Samford's gonna rain from 3 tonight. I can feel it.
Samford can't be stopped.
I will say,
except for Furman.
Furman.
Furman
So I was
top.
on Furman. Yep,
That's
I
a
was
good
on Furman
loss.
against them, and I will say, Samford, I feel like lost a lot of ATS value when they put up 134 points in regulation.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
The second that happened, I'm just like, oh shit, they're not going to cover for a little bit now. But now there's 3 games that have passed since that moment, and this is another game where, and I've been saying it, but this line kind of feels right. So I lean towards ETSU personally, but I'm not gonna fade my boys here and take them. So
You can take the spread, bro. I just need 81 points.
no. Okay.
I'm not laying the points on the road. I just think they can run up the ball obviously, like you said, they've dropped 3 100-point games on D1 teams all in regulation this year. VMI was
It's only 81.
It's
81?
80.5. Yeah. Obviously VMI was mega boosted because that team, they must be paying the other team or something. They just literally don't play defense at all, and they play so fast. So you're giving Samford 1 million possessions against a shit defense. They're going to run it up on you. Obviously, East Tennessee has a better defense than VMI. I think everyone in the country might, but it's still not good. They're letting teams rain it in from 3. They're 232nd in adjusted efficiency on defense. They're giving up a lot of points to other teams. Western Carolina dropped 80, Furman 82. Chattanooga 81. A team like Furman, I think, we saw the other day, obviously they got the better Samford, but those 2 offenses are a bit comparable, and I think the way that they, the amount that they can score and the pace that they play. So I don't see why Samford can't score over 81 points here.
I love it. I have to tell you, you should be a
They're going to
motivational
get enough
speaker as well.
possessions anyway.
I might be
yeah.
the worst person to do motivational speaking.
No, you're sleepy good. It's good. It's good. No, you got me jolted for an 80.5 cover. I love that. Good little 4 o'clock window.
I just
kinda
saw
love High
Providence.
Point.
down
This is
10.
public, probably. I like High Point, kind of. I don't know. I know Winthrop gets up for these games. It's kind of a rivalry, so that kind of sucks. But
I hate Winthrop.
It's just one of those teams that I just like. High Point's been a dog, and they can win on the road, but that 1.5 does scare me.
And I will say, Huff, High Point is another team that falls into the bracket of team with a glossy record who has never been here in the last 5 years. And now they're laying this, or they're getting a point in
Yeah,
this
I know
weird
that scares
spot.
me.
And the public loves High Point too.
Oh, 100%. Because they've been a great team, and I think they're going to continue to be a great team. But we even saw Samford, run the SoCon last year. And when SoCon, teams like this, I think the Big South and the SoCon are very comparable in terms of higher levels of that low major tier, almost like mid-major-esque, I would say. But in the Big South, so for example, bringing up Samford, last year they steamrolled in the SoCon, and then they got bounced in round 1 of the SoCon tournament. And this High Point team, I think, is in a similar territory where they could finish with only 4 losses in conference play going into the conference tournament, and then they could just get picked off because they're not used to being hunted.
Yep. That's a good point. No, I see High Point's pretty public too. But yeah, the catching one is just scary to me. It's telling you Winthrop's going to win this game, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying High Point's overrated or anything, but
They're
yeah,
good.
they are good, and for the right reason, everyone's loved them and love betting on them. But yeah, like you guys, same with Samford. They were catching points, and everyone, how are you going to pass up points with Samford? I mean, it's Samford after all, and I mean, not every team is going to go undefeated. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to ever do it again. So you're going to drop some games here and there. I mean, look at Arizona; they just lost to fucking Oregon State. So I mean, anything can happen. So yeah, I might actually fire on Winthrop in that one. We'll see. We'll see how I feel, but it's in the slip right now. Another big one here. I'm on Baylor -5 in this game against TCU. I see it's at 5.5 now, but Baylor at home after God, they went to they lost at Texas on that buzzer beater, so they've been off for a week. So it's a little scary. They might come out slow, and they lost to Kansas State on the road, but they're back home now. They've got a 3-point win over Cincy, 9 over BYU. They beat Cornell, damn near put up 100. So I mean, I think this is just a spot where Baylor gets up and gets going. I mean, you can't drop 3 games in a row, and you're back home. TCU has come off that big comeback against Oklahoma State where they're down like 19 points or something. Came back and covered the spread here. I think Baylor at home in that Moody Center, they get going. Their offense pumps it up. These last they're 6-4 straight up against TCU, and they haven't lost. Actually, TCU last year won in Baylor. So the last matchup between these two in Baylor, TCU knocked them out at home, 88-87. Other than that, it's been since before 2018, since Texas Christian went in and beat Baylor. So I think Baylor's going to have a little bit of extra motivation to avenge that home loss, especially since it was the last one against TCU. They can't let TCU take this first one. And Scott Baylor is going to have these guys ready. I mean, Jacoby Walter, I love that kid. His jumper is nasty. And they've just got guys that can run up and down. So I'm going to fade TCU here, who's coming off that big comeback win against Oklahoma State and covered. Otherwise, their road schedule has been tough. They lost by 4 at Cincinnati. Kansas beat them by 2. So they're playing tough, but they're not pulling it out. I just like Baylor here with their offense and a bounce back after back-to-back losses, coming home and putting it on and showing out for the fans.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think TCU picking off 2 back-to-back road spots in the Big 12. I mean, they're up against the odds at this point, and yes, they can cover and not win. That's definitely a possibility, but Baylor needs to start building a little bit more of a resume up, even though that they have some, good wins. But they need to start winning these types of games and winning in convincing fashion, and kind of hit that stride if they want to be where they want to be. And I think Baylor's going to pour it on here. I'm seeing 4.5. I'm seeing 5 out there, depending on the book you're shopping at. I would lay it. This is one that I had in my bet slip, didn't bet initially, but depending on some of these early games, if I'm raking in, I might throw a little something on Baylor. Why not?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think they, like you said, I think they need to kind of boost their resume. Obviously, they have a couple good wins with BYU and Cincy, but they've dropped to Kansas State, Texas, Michigan State, and Duke. So they're going to want to get these big wins wherever they can, just to get that little extra cushion on their resume. So yeah, I can see Baylor pouring it on at home. They're going to be up for the game. So I'm with you guys, laying the 4.5.
Do it.
Sounds like squad ride for Baylor. I can get behind that. Next one. The game that we were talking about should not be in the middle of the fucking day. This should be a primetime Friday or Sunday night game. Utah State is heading to Boise State. This line has come down this morning. It was -3. Utah State's catching 2.5 on the road here. Over unders 144. I had Boise State -3, and it dropped to 2.5, and I could cash out and not get a penalty. So I'm currently sitting with no Boise State bet, but I am going to bet Boise State and just see if maybe it drops a little more. But Boise State, at Fresno, they choked that game away. They were up 18 points or some shit, 20, and then didn't even cover the spread. They beat San Diego State at home. They did lose to UNLV, but they responded with that win. Boise at home has been fire this year, and this series last year they got swept by Utah State. Utah State won by 10 at Boise and then 13 at home. Utah State's great. We all know that, but I think Degenhart is going to have himself a game down low against what's his name? Great Osabor, fantastic name too. Osabar is like the straw that stirs this drink. I mean, he does so much for this team. He boards, he scores insane amount of points, and he just kind of runs shit down there for him. I think he's going to have a matchup against Degenhart today, and he's going to get up for it because if Osabor is going to do whatever the hell he wants, then Martinez and whoever else are going to get whatever they want. So, I mean, the fact that you're catching points, this is, that unranked home favorite spread spot again. But I think Boise is ready for revenge after getting swept last year. They're head to head. And in the past, up until last year, Boise had won 5 in a row in this series. So I think they get back to it. I think Rice has the boys ready, and Degenhart is not going to be a masonry worker. I know if you guys watch Boise, that man's been throwing up bricks the last couple of weeks. So I think he gets right. Big game at home after the scare against Fresno. I think this is a Boise win here by at least 3 points.
Yeah, I'm all over Boise State here. This feels like one of the most cohesive teams in all of basketball this year in terms of just kind of high level play because Marcus Shaver was great. He was a point scorer, he was a bucket getter down the stretch. If it was a tie game, he was going to give you a really good shot to win the game late. But sometimes the Boise State offense last year would stagnate and kind of fall into the trap of taking up really bad shots early in the shot clock. Whereas this year, it feels like a cohesive unit where they're putting up really quality shots, really getting really good looks, and everybody kind of knows their role. And I love these complete teams. They don't necessarily always do the most damage in March because you can kind of pick them off if they're not, you don't have that individual star talent, especially at the guard spots. But in conference play, these types of teams rake in the dough, and I'm all on Boise State here to win this game and win it pretty convincingly.
Yep, I'm with you guys. Trevor knows I love Max Rice on Boise State, and like you said, Degenhart down low is a really big body that will do the dirty work for you. So I like this team last year, like you said. I mean, they were really good last year, but with Schaefer, not being there, I think you're right. I think they're a bit more cohesive and they're playing as a unit. And these Mountain West teams at home, I don't know how they're doing this year, but I know I've mentioned it a lot on the show. Like Mountain West teams at home tend to get the job done. So in conference play, I usually always lean towards them, especially with a short number like this. So yeah, I'm with you guys with Boise. I love Boise.
Quad lock it again. You get well said, guys. Yeah, Mountain West home teams. I'm with you, Nick.
Yeah.
One time we faded the system for Mountain West home teams, UNLV beat New Mexico because we were both on that game too, and we texted each other like, "Dude, why do we fade the Mountain West home team system?" What the
yeah, it's not 100% win rate system, but we're working on
it. Chad G, Boise State's 122 and 76 on Saturday, so a little fun fact there. But shout out Chad G again on Twitter. He tagged me in something yesterday. Small home favorites since 2020 have a 50.3 ATS. So if you're laying between pick'em and or a half a point and 3, 50.3 ATS since 2020. No, it's obviously a large scale. Who knows? If Mountain West and Big Ten and shit, I'm sure they have a little bit better win rate. But still, I mean, if you don't mind paying the juice, I would pay it. But I'm gonna take the 2.5. I just locked it in. I think they win by more than a possession, but I'm not too scared of that little home stat there. Although it is a good nugget. I'm not too scared of this one today. I think this is a nice spot for Boise to at least handle by a bucket here, by a 3-pointer. So
Utah State's 0-2 this season when playing as a 3-point under, at least a 3-point underdog as well. So
Fun fact.
ATS
Yeah,
that
and
is.
even Boise State's 5-3 ATS at home this year and 9-1 straight up. So they did, they love playing at home. So like you said, if you're afraid of the 2.5 and you're okay with, eating, I mean, what is it? Probably 140. That's 150 now.
I think it's around
I mean,
140.
Yeah, it's a bit of juice to eat, but if you're comfortable, if you're okay with paying the book a little tax and just getting money line, it's fine.
Do they still have that blue and orange? Remember the blue and orange court inside of the 3-point line? One side was blue, one side was orange or whatever. I don't know if I don't think they do, but
That
that
sounds
court was like
absolutely
before like
disgusting.
even TCU and stuff like that. It was gross. I'm gonna look that up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think it's like that anymore.
They do have it. I think it's just blue, but it's not blue and orange. Yeah.
I think the paint's just
It's still a disgusting stadium. I can't. I'm trying to remember what it looks like just off the top of my head because I remember the one you're talking about. They've redesigned this court like 5 times in the past 7 years, and every
Yeah.
single year they just make it a little bit more disgusting than what it was before. Which I kind of love that Boise's playing on a blue turf, blue court, whatever you want to call it, and I think right now I think it's just like kind of. I can't find the actual now what it is, but I think they toned it down quite a bit.
Yeah, I
And
see
the-
it. It's like that parquet or whatever, parquet that like, and then like they have like a tan inside the 3-point, but they still have the blue key. Still got the blue lane. So it's not that like, dude,
I
they
think-
even had the logo in between.
I was
Oh my
gonna say, yeah, I think they
gosh,
had the
it's so-
Bronco on both
that's so
paints at one
bad.
point.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they can't copy Memphis or their football field, so I get it. They don't. I like the new look. It's much better. But TCU and San Jose State, my 2 least favorite courts in college basketball. I don't care what people
FIU
say.
looks like a fucking
FIU's
beach.
pretty
Oregon.
bad. Oregon's always been bad too. Yeah.
Vomit.
I'm to the point where I think that actually Oregon does it on purpose so they can fuck with the other team and they're used to it. That court is disgusting.
It's bad. It's been bad
Yeah.
for like 10 years. They were the first one to have like the most crazy court too.
Chad G, home teams in the Mountain West are only 50.62. Is that like within the last 3 years, last 2 years or something? But that is an interesting stat there, Chad.
I think there's a lot of top heavy in the Mountain West when it comes to basketball too. I know like UNLV and teams get up for those type of games, but like, Air Force, some teams. So
that's an all-time
Yeah.
stat, 50.6. But
all time
I think
stat.
that's a good stat. Bogsit, my buddy is asking, he wants props today. I have 2 props that I personally like that I might fire on Prize Picks. I don't know about you guys. Dougie McDaniel, 15.5 points at home against Iowa. Dude doesn't get to play unless he's at home. Iowa does not have a defense. Michigan doesn't have a defense. There's going to be possessions here for days. Dougie can jack up the threes. I think he has a big game. I think he goes for 20 plus today. The total is 162, so they're expecting points. And it's not like Iowa or Michigan play defense. So we're going to see buckets in this one. And then I got Hunter Dickinson under 17.5. I went through his game log. Whenever he plays I can pull this up again, but whenever he plays like a physical defense or a big team, he doesn't like show up. Like he'll show up against ball sack states and stuff. But Cincinnati, 10 points at home. West Virginia, he had 19. Okay, not much defense. Oklahoma State, he had 21. You could argue good one there, but Oklahoma, he had 24, but he shot the ball 20 times. UCF 12, Yale 8, IU 17, Missouri 13, 14. Like he can have a big game, but they need to feed it through him, and I don't think Iowa State's going to let him do that. I think they're going to bully him, force someone else to beat him. And maybe I'm a little bit biased, but he's kind of a bum. I think he actually makes his Kansas team worse, not playing defense and just kind of just bitching around all the time. Like, I don't know, his vibes are always off. I'm not a big Hunter Dickinson fan, but I like his under 17.5 points today. I don't think he goes nuclear. I think Iowa State kind of contains him and just play lockdown at home.
Well, especially since we
What I
like
will
the
say-
under there too. I think that's smart for any props too. I mean, just leaning that way. So
Yeah, he could roll his ankle going for a rebound 3 minutes in and then doesn't play for the rest of the half and comes back out. So Yeah, unders are the way. Overs are way more fun, but unders are the way. And I do like the spot for. I mean, he just had 10 points last game. I mean, so could argue bounce back, but Iowa State's a physical defense that's not going to run up and down the court and give you guys a ton of possession. So
And I will say, you brought up the Michigan Iowa game. Peyton Sanford is going to go off for about 25 today, I would say. Last game out, he's been kind of dealing with a little bit of a rough stretch, a little bit of a cold shooting stretch at that. And in the post game presser, he missed a potential game winning half court buzzer beater, and nobody's really faulting him for it, but he faulted himself. He took it really personal. This losing streak that Iowa's kind of been skidding on is also kind of getting to him. And last year, when you go back to what Peyton Sanford did to Michigan at home, to force it to overtime, he dropped like 40 points and he hit like 11 threes. It felt like. I think this could be just one of those get right games for Peyton Sanford. So whatever his prop is sitting at, I would absolutely smash that.
13.5.
Yeah, it's going to go way over. It's sailing over that.
Easy. So maybe a little Dougie McDaniel and Peyton Sanford same game there. Do you want to throw a little halfie on that? Not a bad look. There's going to be points in that game. Who explain to me who's playing defense? Absolutely nobody.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's crazy. We might as well just talk about that game. Michigan is laying 1.5, I believe that was. It's up to now. Michigan -1.5. Yep. They're laying 1.5. Total still at 162.
Grossest game on the board almost.
It's up there. Top 5.
I just watched Michigan play, guys. I know they didn't have Doug McDaniel. They're bad, but why? I feel like the line is telling me to take Michigan, but I don't know. Iowa.
It's 100% telling you too, but who's nutting up to bet Michigan?
Oh.
I mean, my motto is fade Juwan Howard, and it has not proven that's not steered me wrong this year. I mean, Martelli had him playing. Juwan comes back. This team's dog shit again. Shocker. So I mean, I'm not touching this game, but if I was to, I'd be playing Michigan -1.5 for -105, damn near even money. So not doing it, but that's where I would play personally. Rob, you're the Iowa guy. How are you attacking this? Or are you just gonna sadly watch this?
This is absolutely one of the games, and I've seen this 100 times, where Iowa feels like they've hit rock bottom, and then all of a sudden they give you a reason to believe again, just to suck your hopes out again, and 2 games away from here. So I think Iowa wins this. I think it's going to be a tight game, so I think the kind of pick-a-mish line is correct here. But when you're getting plus money or even money betting on Iowa in this spot, after a heartbreaker against Maryland, I think that they probably get right and win this game.
Let's go Hawkeyes. I can't root for Michigan.
Yep.
The other big game in this window, I could be missing one. Arizona is laying 4 at Oregon. I'm sitting on Oregon +3. I was debating money line, but I just put an extra. I got 2 units on +3 here. It did go up, but if we look at Arizona on the road this year, they have 1 win, I think, in conference play, maybe on the road. I forget I think it was Stanford. At Cal. They won 100-81. Otherwise, they lost by 18 at Stanford. They lost by 3 against Wazoo, and then they just lost on a buzzer beater against Oregon State. I think a lot of people are seeing this small line, and they're expecting a bounce back for Arizona. I mean, there's no way they lose 2 in a row, right? Not a chance. But if you go into this series history, last year Arizona won by 15. Game before, Oregon won by 19. Arizona won at home by 3. Oregon won by at 11. I mean, and then prior to that, it's all Oregon, 8-2 Oregon. So I mean, obviously that was a little different time. I forget when Tommy Lloyd got there, but he hasn't been there for more than 3 or 4 years, I don't think. So this has been a lot of Altman owning Arizona for a little bit. Now it's kind of leveled out, but the home teams have won in the last 2 years. Well, Oregon upset Arizona 2021, but otherwise it's alternated who's ever home. And I think Oregon gets a big dub here. They just mollywopped Arizona State. Arizona State's been, say what you want, but they've been a pretty decent team this year for the most part, and they just went in and got mollywopped. Arizona goes and doesn't play defense on the road, and Oregon State puts up 83 and beats them. Like, It's mind blowing how different this team is on the road compared to home, and they don't play defense. So I love Oregon in this one. They've got Biddle and Dante back, so they've got the size down low again. And excuse me, but this is just a big game. This is gonna be rocking. Altman has had a lot of success against this team, and the last 2 years they've split it 50-50 to the home team. So give me Oregon in this one to keep it close, and um, I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona loses again. They just don't play defense, and they're a much different team on the road.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I like Oregon in this spot as well. I think they can definitely hang. They're 7-3 ATS at home this season so far, and I think they're going to continue to build on that record here versus Arizona. I think this Arizona team is just. I mean, man, they look good to start the season, but they've quickly like slipped into a team that just kind of looks a bit lost, especially on the road. So I think this Oregon team can definitely cover 3.5, 4 points. We're getting an extra possession with a home team that's looked pretty good. I mean, yeah, they've dropped games to Colorado and Utah, but that's not really saying too much. Both games being on the road against this Pac-12 conference is pretty good. There's a lot of like really good teams that you really don't want to go on the road and play at home. Those two teams being two of them. So yeah, I trust Oregon at home. I think they'll keep it within a possession at minimum. They could definitely win the game outright too. So I'm with you.
And Oregon actually won at Wazoo, whereas Arizona lost too. And like Avetta said, shout out Avetta, they're begging you to take Zona with just a small spread. Only 4 points after a loss, easy. Like, come on, how are you not supposed to take Zona?
And I will say that Arizona is one of those teams that just kind of either plays down to their level of competition or plays up to it. I mean, we kind of saw it at the polarity in that UCLA game, right? Where UCLA is coming on their home court, awful UCLA team, and all of a sudden UCLA is up 16, 18 points. Well, Arizona has the ability to turn it up and absolutely steamroll teams like that, and they did in the second half, and that's why they won that game. And in this spot, how low is Arizona's perception and their stock right now after that Oregon State loss and after getting tested by UCLA? Because depending on where you kind of view that team and how low you think it is, this could be an Arizona State sort of bounce back spot, or Arizona rather bounce back spot, or this could be if you still think that Arizona stock is and perception is a top 5 team or a number 1 seed, then absolutely you take Oregon here. So it's just one of those things where you just kind of have to weigh what you're thinking and what their perception is.
Yeah, that's the only reason like I wouldn't bet again. Like I'm not going to take anything. But you're right. Like this team can easily just flip the switch and look like they did in the beginning of the season and just like run Oregon off the court because they have the talent to do so. They have the big guys down low. They have the guard play. Like there's no reason why Arizona shouldn't, or couldn't like just win this game by, 10, 13 points, whatever. It just, like you said, I agree with you 100%. It's your perception of how low, their stock is, or, what kind of value the books are giving them. So yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you. It is to me more, of a coin flip. I think you can make an argument for either side. So that's why I'm just going to stay away from it, but they definitely have the talent on this team. Like, I mean, I have a future on them to win the regular season in the Pac-12 with Purdue in the Big Ten. So yeah, I mean, I definitely got baited at how good they looked in the beginning. Obviously, their schedule is tough, so these losses that they have aren't like minus Oregon State. Maybe it was like they're all to like talented schools, but they should definitely be in competition to just sweep, especially even the rest of their season schedule. Like they're favored to win every game, so we'll see how they progress throughout the throughout the end of the season. But yeah, this team has the ability to turn it on. They can beat any team in the country. It's just, are they going to get up for it? Are they going to, be up to bounce back after that, heartbreaking loss versus Oregon State?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do think they'll get up. I think it'll be a competitive game, but I mean, this is a big game for Oregon. I mean, every year they get up for this game, and they're at home. They mollywop by 19. Now, yeah, you could argue that this will be a little bit of a offensive letdown and maybe defensive letdown, but Arizona State's been a solid team all year. I mean, we can't really we can discredit them all we want, but what they've done is fairly impressive with how down everybody was on that team. So I think Oregon actually gets this outright, but I'm just playing the spread just in case of some late game shenanigans here. So hopefully that move to 4 doesn't screw me here this afternoon. But I love Oregon in this one here, especially with that fucking court. You got to factor in a half a point for that court. What else we got on? Anyone else got anything that's 4 or this hour slate that we're on right now?
I saw a comment way
I
back.
like UC Davis. This is sorry, Rob. Go ahead. Yeah,
Oh no,
go ahead.
no, yeah, UC Davis. I'm down to talk some UC Davis ball.
Yeah, I like UC Davis. They got it done for me last Saturday against UC Irvine. I don't know why it's 2.5. I guess San Diego's been playing decent ball, but I think UC Davis is fighting strong in their in that good old conference we love, the Big West. I think it's one of the best years that we've seen for the Big West in a while,
Agreed.
outside of just pure dominance. So I think I'm gonna ride the home team. I know that UC Davis isn't like a Assembly Hall or the Pit or anything like that, but when you're playing good basketball, you're at a home game. The 2.5 kind of scares me a little bit, being short. But San Diego's been playing good too, so I think they're spot on. But I like UC Davis just getting it done here, maybe being the better team. And if they win, they could be tied for second um, in the conference. I mean, Cal Poly's 6-2 in the conference. Cal Poly. I mean, come on, this is crazy.
Yeah, and
Cal
UC
Poly's
Davis is
catching
a
14.
team that yep. I saw that. It's interesting. Hawaii on the island. I mean, they're banged up, but yeah, UC Davis. Kind of bringing up your point. This is a team that could win the Big West, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think they're a really great team. They've played well at a conference too. Going up against some really tough matchups and hanging in there. And even in hindsight, looking at their schedule of who they had tight losses to, those were some good teams. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I think UC Davis laying the 2.5 is perfect. And I would pick that if I was going for the side there.
I've got nothing in this one. I would lean Davis too. They've been nice to me whenever I have.
That's
played
gonna
them,
be
so.
me like 4 o'clock, like watching UC Davis on my Score app, like just checking the updates, like not knowing what's going on, but I trust them. So I'm glad you're on it as well. Anything else? I don't have anything else for 4 and 5.
Well, I'll jump up
Uh,
to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Vandy, Tennessee. Okay. Hear me out, boys. Hear me out. So Vandy opened up at 16.5. That's where I grabbed this line at. This line has plummeted all the way down. This is an in-state rivalry where we've seen Vandy pull this upset before. And also, Tennessee on the road is a little bit suspect. And I do think this is the Oregon State-Arizona matchup on this slate where Vandy ends up just kind of pulling up an inexplicable type upset, and I think they do it, and I think we see a court storm. So I have 16.5 with Vanderbilt. I also have plus 860 on the money line is something I bet pretty heavy too.
That arena is low key the weirdest one in NCAA too. It's like an amphitheater. It got like the freaking curtain back there. It's like you're watching
on
like
Broadway.
a 12 p.m. Texas A&M Commerce game. Yeah, they are on Broadway. I know. That's fun.
and you sit under the hoop, like on both sides. Like it's a weird.
It's weird.
And it's like
layout.
what, a foot up in the air too, like from
behind
where,
that curtain.
like,
I want to know what's behind the curtain. Like
The
is
Wizard
The
of
high
Oz.
school
inflatable?
graduation.
Yeah, literally. Like something's going on. Do they have the elevated court too, or no? It's just like you just like sit on like chairs.
It's
I don't even
elevated.
know. Yeah, it's elevated.
It's elevated. Yep.
I guess I didn't even realize it's fucking 11:15 already. We've just been. I guess anybody have any other plays or games that they really want to talk about? I mean, JMU App State will be a good game. I feel like that'll be more of a watch game for me, just because I can make a case for both sides.
Do we want to go rapid fire here with just our favorite bets for the rest of the day?
Let's go for it. Actually, I do want to talk one game out because I'm Arizona State -2 at Oregon State. How are we not nuking Arizona State -2? Oregon State just beat Arizona on a buzzer beater and stormed I saw shot quality what's her nuts? Oregon State was projected like 63 points and Arizona 82, so they're about on track. But they 83 to 80. Like, how are we not fading Oregon State? This game happened 2 days ago. Like, it's not like they've had a week to sit on it and everything. Like, this just happened. It's fresh. Now they're going to roll back up, and they got to play Arizona State, who has shown they can win some games. And Arizona State's coming off a fucking 19-point drumming.
I will say the hangover spots that we typically see when there's a big upset are with a kind of a team that's on the 20 to 40 type range, pulling an upset over a top 10 team. And the next time out, they come out flat and they just don't live up to those expectations. But how do we view a team who is literally the bottom of this conference and dog shit all season long, and they just pull off this? I think a confidence building win is how you can kind of look at it. I mean, they were getting punched in the mouth down 8-9 at half. They storm back. Arizona State storms back throughout the entire game every single time they try to build on a lead. I think this could be a launching pad spot for a few games for Oregon State in just terms of them knowing that they can play with the top half of the Pac-12 and taking every single game serious, because, I mean, they have to. I mean, they're realistic and know where they're sitting in the standings. I think this is potentially an Oregon State winner here.
Man, I've already put 2 units on Arizona State, but the fact that line has not moved off of 2 has me shitting bricks. I honestly may just throw 1 unit because I'll have FOMO if I don't play this game and they win by 20. So I'm going to downgrade that from a 2 to a 1 unit play there.
What time's that game?
6 p.m.
6
I do like your angle, Rob, that a confidence boosting win, because I never thought of that. I just, on surface, you look at it like, how in the hell is this only a 2-point spread? So yeah, it is scary when you put it that way. So you've downgraded my 2 unit to a 1 unit here in this game. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, the FOMO factor will be just too much if they get this covered.
Yeah.
Other games that I am on today: Prairie View A&M. They're laying 2. Who are they playing? Alabama State. Yeah, no, this is a Prairie View team that's coming in off of a loss at Alcorn. Alcorn's been a decent team this year. Alabama State's coming in with back-to-back wins. They did beat Alcorn State and then Alabama A&M. But in this series, it's been all Prairie View. 8-2 in the last 10. Last year, the last game, Alabama State won in overtime, 56-55. Other than that, it's been tight games, but Prairie View has generally gotten it done. So I like Prairie View coming home after a 1-1 road trip, losing the last game to Alcorn. Now you're going to get Alabama State, who you've had success over, and who knocked you off in overtime last year. Now you're getting your revenge on them. I like laying 2 at home with this team. 3-0 Prairie View at home this year, and Alabama State's 2-7 on the road. No, that's going to factor in like playing Auburn and USF and shit like that. But this, they played USC, they lost by 20. So I mean, the fact that game wasn't even kind of competitive. I like Prairie View to get this revenge spot here today. These games are always tight, so that -2 makes sense to me.
Oh, and shout out to Cal Posey in the chat, at KP_show on Twitter. That's one of the homies. Yeah, we did talk about Iowa State, and I kind of was on the side of thinking that was kind of the perfect line and don't really want to take it, even though I see a lot of people on Iowa State. I know a few boys on this panel, though, were on the Cyclones there.
Yeah, I think you could maybe even find a nice live spot too. Who knows how? If Iowa State comes out roaring and is up like 15-4 early on Kansas, you could probably get a nice inflated line with Kansas to come back and keep it close, or vice versa. So, yeah, like Rob said, that 4.5, 5 kind of feels like it's where it should be now. But it does kind of feel baity for Kansas, in my opinion. That they're like, Kansas catching points how you're not supposed to, but everyone's aware of the Hilton Magic this year, especially with that win over Houston. I think people are a little more in tune to that. So kind of just like a nasty line where it is now. So I would lean live.
Yep. Then Mike Freeman also has Dayton Richmond. If you guys have any thoughts on that one.
That's a tough one.
It's a very tough game. First
place. in the A10, first place in the A10.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that what it's
Dayton
for?
also has
Yep.
the nation's longest winning streak right now since Sanford lost.
Ooh,
Um,
13.
Yeah.
yep.
This is going to be a ball game. I wouldn't want to take. I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to lay more than a possession, and the fact that we're seeing Dayton lay that full possession. If you're going to bet this, I feel like you got to take Richmond, especially they're at home, and this is like you said, the A10 is on the line. This is the type of game where either Richmond will flatline, lose by 20, or we get a ball game throughout. And I think it's going to be the latter, right? I would definitely lean towards Richmond.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. I think laying 3.5 with Dayton on the road, I think is definitely not where I lean in this game. I would definitely take Richmond catching that possession. I agree with you completely. I think Richmond either falls flat or they're going to make this like a fucking last possession type of game. So, yeah, I'm totally with you. I like the Spiders catching more than a possession at home.
Yep. And Richmond's 8-1-1 last 10 against the spread too. So they've been playing good ball, and I mean they beat George Washington too. They covered the spread in a game they're clearly getting ready for Dayton for. So I think it's a Richmond team that's focused and ready to come out and play today. Dayton. Now these games have always been close. The favorites 6-4 in the last 10. So I mean, it kind of favors the home team, obviously, and I lean Richmond too. This is a game that they're going to be up for. This is the biggest game of the year. They can kill Dayton's longest win streak now. They can take control of the A10. So I would lean Richmond in this one. Catching the points, it feels nice. Dayton, obviously, they've been pretty damn good, but they hit the road. They won by 10 to Duquesne. They beat Davidson by 13. They actually beat Cincy too. So I mean, they've been solid on the road, but 3.5 just seems a little like too much points for Richmond. I mean, especially for a game where they can take control of this conference and get revenge, because Dayton's owned them. It's 9-1 in the last 10. So Dayton whooped them by 20 last year, 26, and then Richmond won in Dayton prior to that the year before, 68-64. So these two teams have been tight for the most part, and then Dayton embarrassed them last year. I think they come out ready to play it.
Yeah, and I do see Nikki G in the chat bringing up A&M and Ole Miss. And he might be one of my followers on Twitter too, just because A&M is one of my biggest bets of the day. But I got it at -6, and now this line has moved up to -8, -7.5. Even seeing 8.5 out there, and I would downgrade it a little bit because you're talking about a whole extra possession and a half, pretty much. It's kind of getting being tacked on there, but I do think this is an A&M smash spot. I think that they kind of pour it on again, just kind of harping him back to that angle of a team with a glossy record who hasn't been there in the past 5, 6, 7 years. That's Ole Miss, and they have been getting clobbered when they go on the road in these types of spots. I think A&M lays the buzzsaw on them, and it's not even close.
That doesn't make me feel confident about my Ole Miss 8.5. I saw it move up, and yeah, I got it at the best number I saw, which is 8.5. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think A&M is definitely a wagon of a team. I mean, we saw them fucking absolutely step up all the way in competition versus Kentucky a couple games ago, which was just unrealistic for them to ever shoot like that ever again, because we quickly saw them fall back down against Arkansas on the road. But yeah, I mean, this team, if they can somehow pull out that form that they did against Kentucky, I don't know who the hell will beat them. I mean, they're an awful 3-point shooting team, and they shot like 38-39% against Kentucky. But yeah, I think I do think that Ole Miss, I know we talked about it too, like early in the season, we didn't really know how good they were. Like, yeah, they were, I think, like 11-0, 10-0 or something, but they hadn't played really anybody serious until Tennessee, which obviously they faltered and got stomped. So I think we kind of knew once they got into SEC play, we'd see them struggle a bit more than, early on in the season. But yeah, I just think 8.5, in my opinion, is a bit too high. I do think Texas A&M wins the game. But like almost near 3 possessions with an Ole Miss team that I think has a solid offense and can definitely, keep up with A&M scoring wise and can try and contain them as much as they can on defense. I think they are a solid team. So I think just getting 8.5 points is just a little too much. So we're battling on that one.
We're battling on that one. Play the music. Yeah, we
Yep.
don't have music, but
Dun, 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 dun. There we go.
there we go.
Last game I'm really interested in, UCLA USC. I think UCLA is a money line play. They've been playing a lot better the last 3-4 games. USC has been USC. ESPN, posting Bronny Jones graphics where he's getting an award for best teammate of the night and shit like that. Like they're desperate to just talk about this team. So this is going to be a pretty popular game, I think. But I think Mick Cronin's got these guys playing better now. They should have beaten Arizona, but I mean, straight up, they should have just beaten them. But now they're heading to USC, where they haven't actually won in, I forget how many years it's been. UCLA hasn't won in USC shit since before 2019. So I mean, I think that's why you're probably laying points with SC here, but they're not good. I mean, they even at home they've got some wins, but I'm not impressed with this team. UCLA on the other hand, on the road at Arizona could have won, where Arizona obviously plays a lot better. At Arizona State they pulled it out. At Utah they got fucking embarrassed, and after that, that's when it turned on. 12-point win against Washington, road win against Arizona State. Should have beaten Arizona. I think going into SC here, I think this is the spot where they get up for and they get it done. I mean, if they don't cover, I think they're probably going to regress back to old UCLA and lose by 8-9 points. But I think they get this one done, and I like them on the money line straight up here. Fuck the points.
Yeah, I can definitely see that angle with UCLA, and not like you said, I think they're playing a lot better ball. 8-11 teams. This is, I feel like, one of those pseudo-ish pick'em style lines where you're laying less than a full possession, and a lot of people are going to gravitate toward just taking the home team. But this is also a rivalry in terms of just kind of these two teams battling it out. So one, you're getting 2.5 points with UCLA. I think UCLA has been playing the better ball as of late. And this UCLA team just went to Arizona on last Saturday, and they nearly picked them off. I think that's going to stick with them, and I think they get it done here too.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's about that time. If we just want to go through our cards quick, and get everyone out of here and enjoying a fat Saturday of hoops. But I got Arizona State -2 at Oregon State, UCLA money line, Boise State -2.5 for a unit and a half, Providence -11.5, Prairie View A&M -2, Oregon +3. I got 2 units on that. Baylor -5. I have a unit on. Missouri +6.5 a unit, and then Detroit +11.5. I have a unit. I will probably add plays through the day. I mean, beers go down, all of a sudden some bets start looking better. So we'll see how it goes. But those are what I'm on right now, firing for the day.
I'll just list mine out, and you can follow me on Twitter, RobDFB, and I have my picks just kind of bracketed out. But Houston -14.5, Duquesne -8.5, Western Michigan -2.5, Missouri +6.5, Miami, Florida that is -5.5, Hampton +1.5, Toledo -6, Cornell +3, Mississippi State +2.5, UTSA +11.5, Alcorn State -2, Boise State -3, Wyoming +8, and money line, Bellarmine money line, Eastern Kentucky -6.5, Northern Iowa +8, Vanderbilt +16.5, and money line, and then Queens, North Carolina +5, and A&M -6. So we got a handful and then some today on this crazy slate.
Yeah, I got Houston. I'm going to take Houston at the 12 p.m. right now. Already took that. I'm adding William Mary and Northeastern under 140.5. That's disgusting, I know. Iowa State going to take as well. Going to probably lay the points for Illinois to fade my team. So not really logic behind that, but there is logic, I guess, too, because IU stinks. And then I don't have my nighttime card finalized. Gonna look at some injury reports. Gonna have to tail Rob on Mississippi State and Nick with the Sanford team total over. But I think, yeah, locking in Iowa State. And I know High Point's public, but I'm gonna ride them as well. But that's all I really have up until 5 o'clock Eastern. So should tweet out the rest of my plays later. So
Quick note: Khalil Ware unlikely to play. 6 seconds ago.
ankle. Telling you, there's
Fuck
issues,
this
man.
team. I don't want to
Yeah,
play for him anymore.
Yep, I can go to the NBA and be a lottery pick maybe, which is shocking.
Yeah.
Finish this off,
Shout-
Nick.
I just want to say yes. Shout out Rob for joining us, and make sure
Yeah.
to follow him on Twitter at RobDFB. I dropped everyone's Twitter in the chat, so if you guys are looking for him, that's what they are. All right, I have Georgia, Florida over 159.5, Iowa State minus 3.5, North Carolina, FSU over 154.5, Bowling Green, Toledo over 155.5, BYU team total over 78.5. I'm actually opposite Rob. I have Auburn money line eating the juice there. I think they're. I don't know. I could be on the wrong side here. I just hate Mississippi State's offense, and I think if they're struggling to shoot, I think Auburn can run away with that. But we'll see. Sanford Bulldogs over 80.5 team total. UMass minus 4.5 for St. Louis. I'm on Northwestern money line against all of Twitter. It looks like is on Ohio State. I think Northwestern is good, and they're clicking as of recently, so I think they can get the job done at home. Eating a bit of juice. Oops, sorry, eating a bit of juice there as well. Talked about opposite of Rob again with Ole Miss plus 8.5, and then I have Utah Washington over 158.5 in the nightcap.
That Ohio State game, that kind of feels similar to that Texas A&M game we were on there earlier this year, where they played Ohio State, and it seemed too easy, but everyone loved Ohio State. It kind of seems like people are fading Northwestern just because they had a big win. Northwestern at home is fucking good. Ohio State is dog shit. They went to Michigan and lost after having like an 8-point lead. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think Northwestern is a play there. I will just. There's a couple of injuries I saw, so I'll just run through the. Kadari Richmond did not make the trip to Marquette for Seton Hall today, so he is officially out. And Amir Dawes got hurt last game and came back, so something to keep an eye on. Juwan Gary out for Nebraska today, and I think that was the last big news. Yeah, that was the last big news. But Providence is crazy right now. Kids are fighting to get to their seats. Like they're knocking over gates and shit. People are fighting. This place is going to be ridiculous. So yeah. It's gonna be a good day, hoops. I'm ready for this. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah. Always is.
Yeah.
There's 150 fucking games to watch.
Yeah, they better be fucking good. Rob, appreciate you joining us. It's been
Thanks,
great.
Rob.
Love having you here. You know, maybe we'll have to make this a Saturday tradition, get the whole gang in here. So appreciate it. And yeah, if you want to plug yourself again, just knock yourself out.
Hey, all I gotta say is, thank you for having me on, boys. Love talking through these hoops and these crazy Saturday slates, even though it's daunting when you're talking about how many bets you might have or how much money you might have out there. But yeah, man, thank you for having me on. Great time and a lot of good conversation. So I'm ready to see how this thing plays out.
Hell yeah. And stay tuned to everyone's Twitter. I'm sure we're going to be adding plays throughout the day. I'm with Huff. I didn't really get 100% through the late slate. So I might add a play or two because you got a DGen late at night, especially with an 11 p.m. tip-off in Hawaii. So, yeah. So appreciate everyone. It's a great show. And good luck today. Let's cash some bets.
Let's do it.